Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Higurashi Part 5, Meakashi. Meakashi? Anyway, it's gonna be a fun time. I'm enjoying Shion and Shion's perspective. I'm enjoying her story, and I'm really looking forward to the next part. Let's get on with, I think this will be Chapter 5. These last couple chapters have been a little bit short, so we might try to go for 3 chapters tonight. The other ones were only taking about 2 hours, and I'm aiming for like 2-3 hours, so... if these ones were short, might do a third one. Increased efficiency, speeding through at light speed. President, if you would. For a moment, I forgot the class president was me. Right, it's Shion. So this is Shion impersonating Mion, right? All rise. Looks like you didn't get enough sleep. I know it's been very hot at night lately. Try to get as much sleep as you can. All right, everyone. Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure this place can be called a school. There are so many different age groups. It's like a kindergarten and elementary school blended together. Since I'd heard already about what this place was like, I didn't feel that uncomfortable. It wasn't too difficult to act like me on here. As Sis told me, Satoshi-kun looked exhausted. I said hi to him, but he ignored me. Since I knew what he'd been going through, his pain looked apparent to me. I was interested in another person in this classroom. Satoko, Satoshi's little sister. The gremlin. She looked as worn out as Satoshi-kun, emotionless like an abandoned doll. Everybody in this room was aware of their circumstances, but no one could do anything for them. So they just acted as though nothing was wrong. First night at work, you're all alone? Well, on the bright side, this means they sort of trust you to do your job. And they don't think you need an escort. On the other hand, it's your first night of work and you're here. Mion will only let me have this one day. If I slack off even a little bit today, we'll be over with quickly. I had to figure out what I should do in this limited time. I should probably talk to Satoshi. But what about? About what? Anything goes. Cheer him up, sympathize with him, anything will do. More than anything, I just wanted to chat with him. However, Sis told me, she said Satoshi didn't communicate much with her lately, and had distanced himself from her. I figured I shouldn't talk to him too casually. I wanted to, but maybe it's better to leave him alone. I need to keep my sister's warnings in mind. Instead, I decided to ignore them. Yep, that sounds like Shion. She's too busy crushing on Satoshi. I looked for him during lunch break. He was walking as if looking for a place where he could be alone, and I caught him in the hallway. Satoshi-kun. He turned around, startled by my voice. His facial expression surprised me. He was scowling, clearly a sign of projection. But I couldn't hesitate. I'd lose my only chance if I did. Hey, how are you? He gave me a look as if saying, do I look fine to you? I never expected to see an expression like that on his face. I felt like my heart was being torn into pieces, and as I looked down, he spoke to me. I felt a little glad, but the next thing he said changed that. You mean the first thing he said? He hasn't actually said anything. I'm fine. Is there anything else? I'll get going if there isn't. I want to be alone. Okay. I guess you're tired from work. I'm sure you want some time to yourself. You're working today too, right? Where at? Sis found several jobs for him. He worked at a few different places. He was helping out when necessary at any of the shops Mion introduced him to, and as a result he constantly had to do different tasks in a different environment almost every time. On top of that, he requested high-paying jobs from Mion because he wanted a lot of money as soon as possible. In other words, he chose to mostly do manual labor. Oh, that sounds exhausting. That does sound exhausting, Satoshi. A full day of school, then a part-time job, that's pretty rough. He was exhausted every day because he wasn't that physically strong. Does it matter? And shouldn't you know because he helped me get the job? Mion did help him get the job, yet Satoshi didn't look thankful for that opportunity. It wasn't like him at all. He made me feel sad. You're right, sorry. Is that all? He sounded so harsh. Why was he being like that? Would he ever stroke my head again? Ooh. I couldn't help my tears. They flowed onto my cheeks, and Satoshi looked confused for a moment, then he frowned again. Sorry. The coach said he wanted you to come back to practice. I told him I quit, so I won't be going back. But maybe it's a good idea to work out from time to time, you know? Not interested. I didn't know why he was being so hostile towards me. Why did he hate me so much? I was left bewildered. What? How come? I'm busy with work. Isn't it obvious? No, I didn't mean that. Why do you hate me so much? Why don't you ask yourself? Ask myself? What did I do? I don't understand, Satoshi. I couldn't control my emotions any longer. Streaks of tears ran down my cheeks. Satoshi gave me a hateful glare and walked away without saying another word. I couldn't even stop him. If I tried, he'd hurt me again with another cutting remark. I couldn't bear that, so I just watched him walk away. Oof, that's rough. That's rough. I'm sorry, Shion. Instead of head patting randoms in chat, I feel like Shion needs head pats right now. Yes, Shion needs those head pats. I couldn't bear that, so I just watched him walk away. I wiped my tears and went back to the classroom. I heard somebody crying from inside. What's going on? I looked around the room to see. It was Satoko. Now it's Satoko's turn. I saw her bento box on the floor. I asked one of her classmates what happened, and it seems Satoko bumped into somebody's shoulder when she stood up to go wash the box out. That was all. Satoko was crying as if she was afraid she was going to be chided badly. What happened was very, very minor. She could just pick up the box and things would be fine. It looked like the lid came a little loose, but it was definitely fixable. She didn't have to cry like that, yet Satoko started begging through her tears. Help me, Mimi! Ah! Because of what happened with Satoshi, I couldn't suppress my emotions very well. So instead they exploded. I stormed up to her while elbowing her classmates aside. Remember, she's supposed to be Satoko's friend. I grabbed her by the head and threw her into the wall. Satoko screamed. She didn't seem to understand what happened. She was shedding tears and shivering. She must be wondering why I did that. You know why I did that? Help me! Satoko cried for her brother's help again, and so I grabbed her head and threw her again. Satoko stumbled and crashed into a desk. Damn, Shion's getting pretty violent. I guess she hasn't killed anyone yet, so there's that. The desk fell and the contents of the drawer scattered about. Satoko didn't even stand up, she just crouched and trembled while looking up at me. Help me. If you weren't like that, Satoshi, if you weren't like that, Satoshi wouldn't have to suffer, don't you get it? That's what I wanted to say, but I was too angry to utter another word. I picked up textbooks and threw them at her face. Cry as much as you want. Nothing's gonna change. Why are you crying? Because you think someone's gonna help you? You don't have any idea what he has to go through to protect you, do you? Do you understand that? Do you understand what you're doing? You shouldn't exist. Die if you don't want to suffer. Go fuck yourself. Damn, Shion's getting a little vicious. As Mion, too. She's supposed to be keeping her cool, and she's fucking flipping the fuck out at lunch. Don't hurt Satoshi-kun. You deserve to die alone. Just die already. Nini. Her desperate cries only increased my irritation. Stop crying. Don't call your brother for help. Just... I thought for a second, when she walked up to Satoko, that she was gonna come up with a plan. She's gonna be like, stop fucking crying, stand on your own two goddamn feet, and do shit for yourself. But instead, she's kind of just my reminder to hydrate. I know who this is. My reminder to hydrate, what a name. I know who this is. Big Ye is back. And he's now my reminder to hydrate. He's gotten a new name. I did hydrate. Alright. I've drunk up. I drank. Stop crying. Don't call for help. Word like that. If only you... I don't know why she's throwing shit at her though, man. Like, this isn't very constructive. This is not very constructive and not going to change anything. If anything, you're just continuing to abuse this poor girl. Satoko curled up to protect herself and cried even harder. I was gonna say, at that point, a girl with long hair ran up and huddled over her. Shion's a really violent person. Yeah, that's fine. I can understand why she's doing that though. She's super fucking tilted. At that point, a girl with long hair ran up and huddled over her. Alright, I knew who that was. Rika Furude, one of Satoko's only friends. Please don't hurt her. She's in a poor situation. Please don't hurt her. It doesn't matter how pathetic she is. She shouldn't rely on Satoshi all the time. Stop spoiling her. Satoshi has to suffer so much with her. No. Stop. Don't hurt her. Rika also became the target of my anger. I'm trying to teach her something here. If you keep getting in the way, I'll crack your head open. Dang, alright. Grabbed a chair and lifted over her head. She's going for the chair. Alright. It wouldn't hurt only a little if I threw this thing at them. Rika tightly closed her eyes and covered Satoko with her body. I didn't care what the consequences would be. I didn't care if I hurt them. You're somehow against beating children, so you can't approve of this? You know Shion's like 12, right? This isn't like someone who's like 20. It's like she's like a year or two older than them. Stop. Michin. Reina returned to the classroom and shouted at me. And then Satoshi rushed in while pushing Reina aside. Seeming to have grasped the situation immediately, he charged straight at me. Till my body hit the locker, I didn't understand what happened. There was a loud crashing noise. I'd left a dent in it. And I crouched there in pain. To be fair, Satoko is like the cause of most of her problems. Satoko is her own cause of problems, so it's like I can kind of see being pissed off at her because she's causing so much trouble for everybody. Like she does her pranks on adults, so on her family members, and it's like, can you imagine living with Satoko? Like, it would actually be hell. Like you'd go to pour yourself a bowl of cereal. You'd like pour the milk, and it'd be fucking glue. You'd be like, are you fucking serious? You go to bed, and she's like put nails in the bed at random intervals, just like driven nails into the mattress. And you like try to go to bed, and you get like massive gashes on your back every single night. You open the door, and like a bucket filled with rocks falls on your fucking head. It'd be fucking terrible to be in the same school as her. As a teacher, you have to stop them. Good thing our character's not a teacher. Our teacher is just another student. I'm just another student. But man, I would not want to live with Satoko. I mean, I think you kind of like her when she's like older and suddenly stops being a complete bitch for no reason, but like seriously, the prank, as far as I've read, the pranks she plays on Keiichi, which would honestly make her a fucking miserable person to be in the same classroom as, are like toned down versions of the pranks she does like around this time. So like several of those pranks would cause serious injuries if they escalate any further. Like even just like board with nails in it is still a pretty dangerous trap that can cause serious damage. So like I don't know how, like a couple chalk dusters, like the chalk dusters are the joke. This is pre-prankster Satoko? No, it's post-prankster Satoko. It's mid-prankster Satoko. She started pranking people. That's how her step-parents started hating her. And this is after her parents died. While she's living with her aunt and uncle, who she's also pranking. Who she may or may not also be pranking. Like, it's hard to tell. Because she always fake cries at, like, the slightest thing anyway. Right? Like, she plays pranks on Keiichi and then cries to get everyone's sympathy because she's had, like, a shitty family. Like, it's like when she's not pranking people, I can appreciate her, but like, if you literally have to interact with her or anyone she interacts with, I can definitely see being like super fucking irritated at her all the fucking time. Like, it's like I liked her in the arc where she was the focus, and she was likable because she stopped being a complete fucking bitch for no reason. It's like I know I've had people in like public school classes who are like this, and they're fucking annoying to sit next to. You just have to have like super thick skin to do anything. Like I was I think the only person in my class willing to, in like grade 6 or 7, I was like the only person in my class willing to sit next to someone without complaining to the teacher every single day, because they had like a metal ruler and they'd unironically hit you with it. Or stab you with the fucking mechanical pencil they had. Mind you, they slow down. They slow down on hitting you with those things if they realize once they realize that you literally won't react. You'll just be like, okay, and just completely ignore them. But like, they're still miserable to sit next to. It's not like it magically gets more entertaining. They're just like shitty people. Yeah, I bet you can like tolerate them outside of that, or they can be kind of funny outside of that. So I can totally understand Shion flipping the fuck out on her, especially if she had to go to school with someone like that, and it's like, are you fucking kidding me? I hate people like this. I can totally see her flipping the fuck out, and she's got like this crazy crush. She's got like her first crush on Satoshi, and she's like super into him, so doing dumb stuff for Satoshi that isn't like 100% thought through is probably fair. Considering she's what, like, if she's like 12-ish? She's like 12-ish, maybe 14 at most. Because Satoko is like 9 or 10 right now, I think. No, yeah, Satoko's like 9 or 10 right now, I think. Something like that. Like, she's pretty young. She's in double digits. She's in double digits when Keiichi's here, and it's 1 year before Keiichi arrives, so she might be like 11 at most. I would not, if you told me she was more than 12, I'd say you were like out of your freaking mind. It said she is double digits, but what she is for double digits, I'm not quite sure. I think because she's single digits. I think they're single digits in the previous arc, which was like a prequel and the damn thing, so at most they're like 13. At most, I think. It could be younger. It's not quite clear how old they were because they use a glorious underscore to tell you what their age is. Satoko, are you alright? Ah! Satoko pushed Rika aside and jumped at her brother and started crying again. What happened? Why were you treated like that? I didn't do anything, but Mion, she suddenly... Ah! What's going on, Mion? Satoshi shouted at me while clutching his sister. He looked fierce. What did Satoko do to deserve this? What did she do? What did we do? Why do we always suffer like this? Why? Why? He released Satoko and rushed up to me, grabbing me by the neck. You said I should ask myself, didn't you? So why don't you ask yourself? Ask what? I know you feel she's a burden on you. You always have to suffer because of her. You know that, right? If she were stronger, you wouldn't have to suffer. She's the one to blame. I don't believe what I said was wrong. I don't believe what you said is entirely wrong either. But there's probably more nuance to this. And you probably have to realize he feels like he's in a situation where he doesn't really have a choice about whether or not she's strong or whether or not he should be doing something. He feels like these are all obligations. After hearing this, Satoshi went berserk. What the heck do you know? Ah! Satoshi grabbed my hair and threw it to the wall like I did with Satoko. Ow. However, I wasn't gonna back down. I no longer had any control over my emotions at all. You spent so much time protecting her, she'll never stop relying on you until you stop doing that. I mean, that could be true. That could be true. Maybe. I feel like Shion is saying things that are mostly true, or like true for the moment, but is not thinking long term, which is fair. I also feel like she's irritated about a bunch of shit that she can't control because her family situation's also hot fucking garbage. Like, she can't because Shion's not just angry at Satoshi and Rika, or not Rika, what am I talking about? Satoko and Satoshi. She's also really mad that she has literally nothing she can do and is basically like a prisoner in her own house. And was a prisoner outside of her house when she was trapped at the school. Because of her shitty grandmother who's literally like doing everything she can to make her life hell. Everything short of killing her, that is. She tried that one, and at least her mom saved her. I'm assuming it's her mom, because her dad seems to be just an extension. Her dad, who married... Her dad seems to be an extension of the family's will. I assume her mom saved her. It's not entirely clear, but that seems to be... I'm guessing that's what happened. As her mom's not on good terms with her grandmother. And since she's literally the only person in the family who heard about that, I'm assuming she said or did something to reject her opinion that she should murder Shion. Or her attempts to murder Shion. So, kudos to her mother, I guess. Alright. The hell do you know about us? The heck do you know? You persecuted our parents and now it's us? That's the way of the Sonozakis, huh? You torture traitors for fun? Well, is it fun? Is it fun bullying us, huh? Stop it. That was Reina's voice. She stepped in looking as fierce as a demon. Satoshi, please. Michan doesn't have bad intentions. She wants to help you, but she lost control a little. Okay? Satoshi looked like he wanted to say something, but he chose not to. You too, Michan. I know how much you worry about Satoshi-kun, but you can't solve the problem like that. I think you understand, right? Since Satoshi didn't say anything, I kept quiet too. Here's Satoko-chan. You don't have to cry just because you dropped your bento box, alright? You feel better now? Satoko, I'll pick up the bento for you. Rika started picking up the box while its owner continued to cry. Note the box is empty. It's already been noted the box is empty. Guys, can you help us clean up? The teacher will be back from the vegetable garden soon. This quarrel's over, so don't tell her about it. Vegetable garden. Yes, yes, the vegetable garden. This would be the garden she has behind the school that grows nothing but ingredients for curry. I believe we read about this in like the second or third arc. Oh, the teacher's like growing it in. Is growing ingredients for various curries in the backyard. It's like, there's a school vegetable garden, and then there's the teacher's personal vegetable garden at the school. The classmates looked at each other and nodded. Then they started picking up the stuff on the floor. I feel like even though Shion was doing something kind of dumb, I'm gonna give her a pass on this one, since she's acting on feelings people could reasonably have. And a lack of self-control seems... Lack of emotional self-control seems okay seems okay when you're in a situation. When you have in a situation and you're fucking 12, and you're this old. And she's vaguely aware that she's not entirely in control of herself. Here, Satoshi-kun. Michan, why don't you guys shake hands as a sign of reconciliation? There. Sorry, I didn't mean to do this. Tears started to roll down my cheeks again. Wait, why are you crying? I'm sorry too. You have nothing to do with our family situation. I'm sorry. Hey Chan, you go apologize to Soko now, okay? I was fine with apologizing to Satoshi, but I didn't want to apologize to her. But the situation won't be settled otherwise, so I reluctantly apologized. Satoko nodded, looking discouraged. And after that, Reina let me go. My head ached, so I held it with both hands. What was that? What did I do? I didn't want to use this precious time to fight. Remember, she only literally has like 2 conversations with them before she's fucking gone. Instant curry growing on plants. No, she's growing her own ingredients for curry, so I assume she has, she's somewhat more elitist, but instant curry might be like an acceptable substitute when there's nothing else to eat. This warned me, I shouldn't talk to Satoshi just like that. What did I come here for? I shouldn't have come here if I knew this was gonna happen. I assume you had a plan. But it's okay, it seems she didn't. Stupid, you're stupid, Shion. I was overcome by emotions because I was so worried about Satoshi. When did things go wrong? Were they wrong from the beginning? I got into a fight with Satoshi. This was totally the opposite of what I wanted. I regretted it. I hated myself for it. I couldn't blame myself enough. My world had been torn apart. I wish the sky would fall and kill me. Your class president, you should probably dismiss the class. This sounded both amazed and confused. Yeah, I'd be confused too. It's like, didn't you just want to go talk to Satoshi? How the fuck did you end up getting in a fight with and doing all this shit? Seriously, it should have been like it should have been like a short conversation. You might have even had a productive day, and instead, you know, I'm busy with festival preparations, but you certainly made things more complicated. Sorry. Sis tried to say something, but she stopped in the middle. After listening to a few complaints, I started telling her about everything that happened today. She had to pretend the trouble I caused was her responsibility, which must have been very taxing for her. She's like, are you fucking serious? I can imagine being Mion and being like, Mion's face right now is like the, oh, are you serious? Are you fucking serious? Oh. So I won't get the chance to trade spots for a while? Hey. I think you should be more aware of the hassle I have to go through. You're right. This has been sympathetic, but maybe I pushed her too far this time. Of course, she'd be hesitant to trade spots considering what I did today. The atmosphere felt awkward, so we were both silent for a while. If you were to get another chance, what would you do, Shion? That was a reasonable question. You know what, at this point that's a very reasonable question. It's like, if you don't have a good reason to swap places at school again, you're I'm not swapping with you. You can fucking show up in person. I wasn't prepared to answer though. If I had a chance to go to school again and see Satoshi, what would I do? Would I apologize to him about today? I don't think that would work. That might upset him again, no matter how hard I tried. Okay. Here's something he was saying. It was the family who'd been harassing his. It would only be natural for him to hold a grudge against us, but why was he only expressing that now? I've been a Sonozaki to him all along. Satoshi stroked my head even though he knew I was me on Sonozaki. Sis, do you think Satoshi's holding a grudge against the family? I think so, yeah. It was our family that initiated the persecution of the Hojo family, making them into scapegoats. And even after the dam conflict, it wasn't easy for the Hojo family to live in Hinamizawa. Given all of that, and the fact that she murdered his parents, it's not surprising Satoshi hates us. You know, I'd probably hate you guys too. The Sonozaki family put his family in a devastating situation. Shion's at least sort of half decent because she's not killing anyone. Imagine that being the fucking standard for being a good decent member of your fucking family. It's like, well, she isn't committing any crimes or murdering anyone, so I guess she's not a terrible person. Yeah, it's not surprising Satoshi hates us, the family who put his family in a devastating situation, but why now? Why is he only expressing that grudge to us now? Why is it happening now? If he wanted to... Oh. Ah! If he'd rejected me in the first place, I wouldn't have wanted to get close to him. My tears wet my cheeks, and I didn't bother to wipe them. It's only natural for him to hold a grudge against the Sonozakis. There's nothing unusual about it, but rather, why has he been treating me like a friend? I knew how stupid this question was. I think it's because he was mature. I can't understand it. Ah! You've been treating me as a friend because he was mature? But now he became stressed mentally and physically, he's decided to reject me? No matter how hard I thought about it, I couldn't find anything to fault him with. If there were somebody to blame, it'd be somebody I'd never accused before. Wait. Never accused? Dude, we've accused the fucking hag of doing so much bullshit already? Come on. Why'd the hag decide to persecute the Hojos? It was his parents who supported the dam project, right? I like Mion's response here because Mion was actually in charge of the entire protest movement. So it's 500% on Mion. Satoshi had nothing to do with it. Why was he included? Why? Mion couldn't say anything in return. Actually, it wasn't hard at all to guess the reason. The hag didn't give any specific order to harass the Hojos. She just thought the Hojo family was getting in the way. The people around her noticed how it was bothering her, and took steps to get rid of it. Though of course she must have known how influential her own words were. She didn't just think it, she gave what she must have known would be interpreted as an order. And she's the one to blame for initiating the attack on the Hojos. You said before the Furude priest wasn't mature because he didn't cooperate, right? Is this the same scenario? The Hojo family wasn't mature because they didn't act in accordance with other villagers? That's why the hag punished them, isn't it? Mion didn't say anything in return, meaning my accusation was the truth. They already punished the Hojo couple. Feel free to bring them to the torture room in the garden and chop their fingers off or something, but leave Satoshi alone. Oh man, I mean, they already did that. Satoshi has nothing to do with this. What did he do to deserve this? What did he do wrong? Answer me. I got bad news for you. Satoshi's gonna disappear in a day or two. Answer me, Mion. Mion! Very well. Please take care of the matter. Goodbye. Mion suddenly changed her tone and hung up. She must have done that to escape my questions. I was furious. I started redialing the number, but I remembered we decided she'd hang up the phone after using that phrase when she saw the hag coming. I doubted she actually saw her. But it was the rule, so I couldn't call back for a while. I went to the bathroom to wash my face and cool down. I turned the faucet. The water felt lukewarm. It didn't help me cool down at all. I was disgusted by my own childishness. I wanted to fill my void. I didn't care about him. Considering that, Satoshi was very generous, but I don't know if I can forgive Satoko. That's a different story. The one person I don't feel bad for is Mion, though. Still not feeling bad for Mion. I mean, it sucks. It does objectively suck that she has to clean up after Shion's mess. But I mean, part of the reason they are in this situation is because she had both Satoshi's parents killed, so how bad do I really feel? It's like, well, if you are gonna go to jail for murdering someone, the least you can have is some inconvenience caused as a result of the people you killed. Like, as a result of, like, social fallout from other issues resulting from the people you killed having died. Like, it seems at least you could be inconvenienced. Like, at least she's being inconvenienced. It's not anything horrible, but that seems reasonable. I was looking at the ceiling with my arms and legs spread out. It's not that I wasn't getting hungry. I didn't live with my parents. I didn't live in the school dorm. That meant I had to cook myself something when I wanted to eat. I know it sucks, doesn't it? I knew that, but I still didn't feel like getting up. It had been several days since I began this empty life. Remember, she also can't go to any restaurants because her family owns half the restaurants in town. She's got to avoid most restaurants like the plague. And she's got to avoid being seen, so it's like, I can't go out. I have to cook dinner. No takeout. No delivery, because the delivery driver might slip that Mion's living there now, because she's super well known in town. It had been several days since I began this empty life. It must be tomorrow. The festival, I mean. I heard the doorbell ringing. I ignored it at first, but it rung persistently. I started hearing knocking alongside Kasai's rude voice. Shion-san, please open up. I brought some food for you. I didn't ask him to. He must have known that I hadn't eaten enough and had been feeling down lately. You haven't eaten, have you? No. I'm not hungry. When Kasai put the food on the table, my stomach reacted in a very primitive way by making noise. Your stomach is growling. I believe you need to eat. I was hungry but had no appetite. I mean, I did have an appetite, but I didn't have the energy to eat. Yet I'd feel bad wasting the food Kasai brought. I picked up my chopsticks just to humor him. I thought you were marked by the hag. Is it okay for you to be here? Oryu-san is busy with the festival preparation meeting. She doesn't seem to have time to deal with you right now. Didn't you like croquette? They're good. Thanks. Well, I nibbled on the food. Kasai read through the magazines I bought. Have you, I'd never talked to Kasai about something like this before. Since I always believed myself superior to him psychologically, I hesitated to show my weakness to him. That's an interesting reason. That kind of hardship is healthy for your age. But, hey, do you know about that? Mion-san told me a bit about it. She said she wanted me to assist you. She did she? She looked a little worried. She looked worried your sister's looking out for you. Without responding, I threw the last croquette in my mouth. Thought you might want to know how Satoshi Hojo-kun is doing. I've gathered some information. Would you like me to report? That's not necessary, but since you went through the trouble, I think I better listen. Kasai chuckled, but stopped quickly as if thinking it rude. It seems Teppei Hojo fled the premises. He seems to be staying at his mistress's place in Okinomiya. Teppei? Who's that? Oh, Satoshi's uncle, right? Their aunt, Tamai Hojo, Satoshi, and Satoko are the only ones living in the house right now. Ever since Tamai learned that Teppei fled to his mistresses, she's been in a foul mood. That must mean the aunt is being even nastier to Satoko, and Satoshi is taking even more indirect blows. I don't know about Satoshi, but I heard Satoko looks very miserable. The neighbors are spreading rumors about her. If Satoko looks miserable, that means Satoshi must be going through equally miserable torture. Can you do something about that aunt? Doesn't anybody talk about punishing her? She's also one of the remaining Hojos, after all. The uncle's gone, so why not the aunt? The main family ruled against further harassment towards the family after the death of the couple. They say the police still might be staking out their house due to suspicions about the couple's death. Their deaths have been filed under Oyashiro-sama's curse, so the Sonozaki family thinks no further divine intervention is necessary. Sai put on a faint smile. Come to think of it, it's hard not to suspect the involvement of the Sonozakis in all the incidents said to be Oyashiro-sama's curse. Somebody strives to get rid of the hag's concerns on the day of the Watanagashi festival. Furthermore, the Watanagashi festival is going to be held tomorrow. Will the curse strike again this year? If so, who is going to be the victim? Now that I think about it, there were cases of multiple victims in the past. Someone's gonna die. Someone's gonna disappear. The first and third year it was just one, but the second year the victims were a couple. It wouldn't be too strange if 2 people fell victim this year. Seems like a good time. It'd be best for Satoko and her aunt to be the victims. Why not Satoshi? Satoshi will be freed from every source of his worries all at once. Wait, why does she think Satoko is appropriate to be the victim? I think she just hates Satoko and doesn't rationally think there's a good doesn't actually think there's a good reason for Satoko to be killed here. Other than that, she likes Satoshi. Aside, do you know if this year's victim's been selected already? Does the hag make that decision? If so, Sis should know about it by now. Aside, do you know anything? Shion, I don't know anything about that matter. Oh, that makes sense. That kind of secret won't make its way to you, because you're a small fry. True. I've never received any information regarding that from my connections. But as you know, the Sonozaki family has access to many underground organizations, which I have no channels into. Maybe I could try asking Sis about it. I don't think she's gonna tell you. Unless she's but she won't talk, yeah. She's strict about keeping promises, unlike me. If the hag told her to keep a secret, she'd take it to her grave. Damn. I hope Satoko and her aunt go missing this year. Hey, Kasai, I just thought of that. Aren't you gonna do something about it? Shion, you must be joking. Yeah, I'm kidding. I took a glimpse at Kasai. It didn't look like he was actually going to do something to make my wish come true. I wasn't able to go to the village as myself, so I definitely wasn't going to the festival. I didn't care about that. Even so, I was interested in who was going to end up as the victim of the curse. If I kept lying on this couch playing hooky, someone would fall victim in several hours, and I had no clue why. It had to happen every year. But I was certain the hag was behind it. All the enemies from the dam conflict were being punished, and only the Hojo couple was left, since most of the other enemies had already gone. The cicadas were crying loudly outside. It made me feel hot. Why was it this hot and humid in June? I know, it always sucks. Why is it so damn hot in June? Can it not just be like 15 degrees throughout the whole summer? If Oyashiro-sama was actually punishing people, I'd pray for one thing. I'd pray that the evil aunt would be punished, and I'd offer Satoko as a sacrifice. Heh. Hot. It's hot. When I woke up, Kasai had already gone. It looked like he cleaned the table and the surrounding room. He put my dirty laundry into the hamper in front of the washing machine, too. Being a girl of a sensitive age, I didn't want a man to clean my room. Well, I'd rather thank him than badmouth him. I looked at the clock. It was late afternoon. I had to go grocery shopping. There was nothing left in the fridge, and I'd be having just rice for dinner if I didn't go. And at that moment, the phone rang. Ring, ring. Who is this? It must be Kasai, I thought. Because you're thinking it's Kasai, I'm guessing it's not. I did hope it was him. He could have brought more food. So that I wouldn't have to go shopping. And while I was just being lazy, I didn't feel like going out at all. But it wasn't Kasai on the phone. Sis, where are you calling from? The house? No, I'm calling from a payphone. I'll make it quick. Satoshi called me. Satoshi did? He called you? It probably wasn't me he wanted. He called you, I think. It sounded like you wanted to apologize for what happened the other day. So I thought you should take the call. I told him I'd call back because I was busy. Can you call his number? Okay. I was stunned for a second, but then recovered and wrote down the number on the back of a magazine. Thanks. I'll call right away. Good. He's been extremely stressed these days. I don't think he'll listen to me anymore, but I think he'll listen to you. She could have pretended to be me and handled his call, but she passed it over to me. Thanks, Mia. See ya, Shion. Before she hung up, I put the handset down, and after a second, I dialed the number in a flash. No hesitation, clearly she is comfortable making phone calls. I heard the dial tone 3 times, 4, and there he was. Hojo residence. He sounded like an adult. His voice sounded a little bit tired too, but it definitely was the voice I loved. I got scared. I was scared that he might become sulky again if I mentioned my name. I couldn't open my mouth for a while. Is that you, Satoshi-kun? Oh, sorry I called you so suddenly. Are you okay now? That was the Satoshi I knew. He didn't sound cold like the other day. Yes, I'm okay now. Oh, good. After that, he went silent. I felt the urge to start a conversation. It wasn't fair. He's the one who called in the first place. Then, he finally spoke. I'm truly sorry for what happened the other day. I'm sorry too. You don't have to apologize, because I was the one in the wrong. If this were a face-to-face conversation, he'd be stroking my head. It was sad just talking to him over the phone. He's like, I need head pats. Where are my head pats? I'm a head pat addict now. Oh, forgive the people who forced us into the situation. You might be close to them, but it was never you personally, so I wanted to apologize. No, please don't apologize. I was selfish. I didn't try to understand your situation very well. We apologized to each other a few times. Toshi, are you alright? You're working and you're under a lot of stress. Isn't that too much to handle? I quit my job. I have enough money now. You did? That's good. You don't have to push yourself anymore then. That's really good. Satoshi tried to say something, but he dropped it instead. Satoko, is it far worse than me? Seems like it. Is she alright? Does she look alright to you? He suddenly sounded upset. I feel like she just answered with the generic response of like, she hasn't worth me. She's like, is she alright? And it's like, two seconds of brain power would have saved you there. That was a bit of a dumb line to say on Shion's part. Oh yeah, she has it way worse than me. Yeah, that's probably true. Is she alright? It's like, are you fucking serious, dude? I'd messed up. Sorry. Sorry. I was stupid. I'd ruined this miraculous conversation with him. Satoshi didn't respond to my apology, so I stopped apologizing. She was tortured until she was literally torn up and everyone abandoned her. Everyone. I tried to calm him down. I hated what I just said because of how hollow it sounded. I had no idea what to say next. I felt guilty. Satoshi was desperate to protect Satoko from their evil aunt, but I'd wish Satoko would die tomorrow because of the curse. I was trampling on his desperate hope. Satoko can't take anymore, so he cut himself off in the middle, and he went quiet for a moment. He must have been choosing his words carefully, and then he finally spoke. His words sounded hollow. I mean, I wanted to have fun for one night. What do you mean? The Watanagashi festival is tomorrow, isn't it? I want you to take her there. Yeah, I can do that, but why? She's exhausted, so I think she'd be happy if she could get away from her aunt. For just one night. But why? So this is... Wow, Mion's right. Mion's right! This was exactly the same as Keiichi was asking before he went and murdered the aunt. Or went and murdered the uncle. If you recall, Mion was like, what the fuck? That's exactly the same thing that Satoshi was saying. Why? It's not that I didn't understand why he wanted her taken to the festival. What I didn't understand is why he's asking me to do that. Was there any reason he couldn't take her there himself? I had a hunch he might disappear, so I kept asking, what do you mean, why? Why don't you take her yourself? He fell silent. Satoshi isn't very good at lying or keeping secrets. It was clear he wanted to hide something. I have some stuff I need to take care of with my work tomorrow. I can't go to the festival. He was lying, but he's also stubborn. He wouldn't admit it if I accused him. Mion, can you take her there tomorrow? I wouldn't want to look after Satoko, even at Satoshi-kun's request, but I'm also glad he's relying on me. I know it's ridiculous to ask for your help after that incident, but you're the only person I can turn to now. I didn't know what to say. I did know, though, that I wasn't going to turn down his request. Okay, but just for tomorrow. Alright? I hope you'll keep looking after her. What are you saying? I won't do that, just for tomorrow. He sounded as if he was going to disappear tomorrow. I didn't like the sound of that, so I intentionally sounded sulky. We talked about trivial stuff, just for a little bit. When the conversation was almost over, Satoshi asked something else. Hey, Mion. I really hate asking this, since you might think I'm crazy for saying it, but... What? You... don't believe in it, right? Believe in what? In the curse? What are you talking about, Satoshi-kun? Those who abandon the village try to run away get cursed by Oyashiro, right? That's the rule? Every kid in the village knows that. That's the rule. What's with that suddenly? Are you planning to leave? Though I was kidding, I wanted him to deny it. I'm not thinking about that anymore. He admitted he had thought of it. He said he's not thinking about it. That is not saying he's not planning on leaving, by the way. That is saying he's either planning on putting it into action or he's rejected it. It could be either. I guess Reina told me that much. That's good. So you're not leaving the village? No, but I haven't been forgiven yet. Satoshi tried to say something, but hesitated. He was breathing so heavily. Was he sick? Hey, do you feel alright, Satoshi? Sorry, I'm fine. I guess you're tired. I think you should get some rest. He sounded distinctly more sickly from when this conversation had started. He breathed heavily when punctuating his words. Satoshi repeated his question. Mion, I'll ask you one more time. Do you believe in the curse? What did he want me to say? Could I make him feel relieved with my answer? How should I respond? The answer was simple. There's no curse. There can't possibly be. I didn't know what was bothering him, but I wanted to make him feel better by laughing his worries away. But Satoshi instead fell silent. Would my answer make him happy or maybe sad? I couldn't tell. One thing was certain, I didn't make him feel any better. Sorry, I asked such a weird question. Sorry. I felt like I let him down, so I apologized in a rush. Whether it's a real curse or somebody's conspiracy, I won't disappear. I won't fall victim to it. You won't disappear? No, not until I buy that teddy bear. I'll get the money soon. I won't go anywhere until then. He chuckled. I knew he was trying to relieve me, but it worked the opposite way. He sounded as though he didn't care what happened to him after he bought the bear. Oh, my aunt is home. I have to go. Okay, Mia. Even though he wanted to hang up the phone because of his aunt coming back, Satoshi took a breath to tell me something important. I'll leave Satoko to you. I should have said yes right away, but I still couldn't forgive her, so I just kept quiet. Forget what I said. Bye. Oh. He was obviously disappointed. What had I done? I wanted to apologize. I wished I could. But it was too late. The dial tone left no doubt. Now, that was depressing. Both their home lives suck. That's all I gotta say. Satoshi's home life, partially because of Satoko, partially because of their shitty aunt and uncle. And, Shion's mostly because of her shitty grandmother. Like they're made for each other. Terrible family. Terrible family backgrounds, the both of them. Wait, yeah, there we go. Could have sworn I was going into that tip. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me I was going to be the victim of the curse this year. This is probably from Satoshi's. POV, summoned to disappear soon. There'll be no one left to take care of Satoko. Somebody whispered to me from behind. They told me I don't have much time. That I won't stay as myself for much longer. So I had to make the best of the days I had left. What could I leave for Satoko? She wanted that huge teddy bear. She wanted a peaceful life in which no one would bully her. I whispered to the person at my back. Bestow your violent nature and formidable strength upon me. I want your peaceful mind, filled with hatred. Wow, that was one of the shortest tips we've ever read. Damn. That was literally like 2 seconds. Okay. The chapter itself was decently long. Those tips were really short. I don't mind the short tips, but I feel like the chapters have been relatively short. Yeah, we definitely flew through that one. Damn. Like less than an hour to get through that one. Whew. I hope there's at least a dozen chapters here. We're flying through the chapters at like breakneck pace here. Like this might not even, if this is like as short as the previous one, it might only take like 8 hours to get through this whole game. That'd be really short. I mean, Shion's great, but it seems like the story's going to be really short if it's 12 or if it's less chapters. The day of the Watanagashi. It's Watanagashi Day. June 20th, 1982 at 1:40 p.m. This is essential. If it was 1:42, we wouldn't be able to keep the events in line. What was I doing today? Events would be just chronologically fucked if it was 1:39. That'd be silly. What were we doing? Nothing in particular. Nothing at all. I just wanted to play hooky. I woke up in the afternoon. I ate instant food for lunch while watching boring TV programs. I had a light headache, so I lay down on the sofa. I wouldn't wake up again if I went to sleep. Did she call me on? Whatever. I decided to sleep. I had already told Sis that Satoshi had asked her to look after Satoko. I didn't have to do anything myself. I fell asleep, although my head was aching just a little bit. That'd be all I'd have to deal with. Ugh, headaches are annoying. Later that day at 5 p.m. The aunt believed all the villagers frowned on her because her brother-in-law and his wife were pro-dam activists. She surely experienced some fallout during the time of the dispute, but people stopped looking coldly on her even though she assumed otherwise. She was paranoid, believing all the villagers hated her. And so she decided to hate them back. Her attitude, of course, begot hatred from the villagers, who hated her until ordered not to hate her by the Sonozaki family. Seems fair. They clearly don't like you. If their willingness to hate you is only stemmed by an order not to hate you from the not to harass you from the Sonozakis, they kind of hate you anyway. I don't think she's being paranoid. And the situation became exactly the way she thought it was from the start. Yeah, that's fair. Self-fulfilling prophecy, but also like half caused by Mion's actions, so okay. What came first, their poor relationship with the neighbors? Or her husband's affair? She didn't know herself. Her husband claimed he got to love her because he was fed up with her attitude. She in turn claimed their relationship with the neighbors went sour because her husband damaged their reputation. Only Satoshi was aware that both happened at more or less the same time. Their quarrels had become a daily routine now. When husband came home late, wife would shout at him at the entrance. Satoshi wondered why they didn't just get a divorce, their marriage being as rotten as it was. But he secretly knew the reason for that too. It was the fortune his parents left. His aunt had hidden their bank book and stamp and never allowed her husband access to them. So her husband would search the house for them. She'd find out he stole some money for her purse. That would cause yet another fight. Satoshi had never been aware that his parents had that much money when they were alive. After their death, however, one of his relatives told him he was informed his parents left a large sum of money in some bank account. Yeah, Satoshi couldn't understand why they had that kind of money because his family had been, as far as he knew, poor. It was because of the dam project. His parents probably got the money in return for their cooperation with the government. They strived to get more villagers on their side, provided information to them, and whatnot. The money was probably compensation for their efforts. His aunt and uncle never had any intention to adopt them until they heard about the money. Lovely people. After someone from some financial institution revealed its existence, they appeared to adopt Satoko and Satoshi. They're like, oh damn, $500,000, yeah, well, I'll take that. The couple would fight every day. Eventually, Satoshi's uncle started spending more time at his mistress's house. He realized he had no reason to return to his own home, because he'd just end up in a fight with his wife if he did. When he stopped coming home, Satoshi felt relieved. Neither their uncle nor their aunt treated the two siblings very well. Satoshi's aunt wouldn't have to vent her frustrations on them. The reason the couple fought was their corrupted relationship, so if they separated, there wouldn't be any more fights. At least, that's what Satoshi thought at first. Even after they separated, his aunt still had a short temper. Another woman stole her husband. A prostitute, as far as we can tell. I think that was what we found out, right? The murder victim, which was the mistress, was a prostitute, I believe. The villagers must have been talking behind her back. It was mortifyingly embarrassing. Since she lost an opponent to fight, Satoshi's aunt directed her hatred towards the siblings. Satoshi had been observing her. He learned when she would get upset and how to avoid her attention. He managed to get by without upsetting her by turning a keen eye to her behavior and avoiding conflict. Okay, cool. But Satoko couldn't do that. She hated her aunt and didn't even try to hide it. Satoshi told her to behave in their aunt's presence, but her eyes were always filled with hatred. Satoshi strived to reduce the conflict between them as much as possible. He stepped in to mend their relationship. It was a heavy burden for him because he was still just a boy. He bore so much, covered for his little sister by lying, maneuvering. He tried to maintain a tangible sense of peace, but he couldn't do that forever. The relationship between Satoko and her aunt had already spiraled out of control. Satoshi found something in the trash. It probably wasn't a legitimate place for trash disposal. If it was, sanitation workers would come and pick it up. He passed by the street all the time, so he noticed when there were new things dumped here. He'd found a plain-looking desk of the kind likely to be seen in offices. Somebody must have dumped it within the past few days. His aunt liked to bring usable trash home. It seems to be a hobby of both Reina and the aunt, then. She'd had Satoshi help bring a chest home just a few days ago. If he told her about the desk, she'd want it. His aunt hated to find bugs and garbage in the drawers, so she'd always open them to check before carrying the thing home. Satoshi opened all the drawers, all of which were empty. And after that, he turned and walked about 5 steps. He was standing in a knee-high bush. There he laid something he'd been carrying all the time until today. It'd be hard to find unless you specifically knew it was there to begin with. Looking satisfied, he looked around for a landmark to remember the place by. What are we hiding, Satoshi? What are we hiding? 5:51 p.m., nearly an hour later. Well, closer to 45 minutes. Hey, old pal. I see you showed up again this year. I wonder if Shion's gonna show up. This is Mion, right? The sprite says me. The sprite's gonna tell me Mion. Not that I can tell, really. They're twins. She could be wearing her twin's outfit. Better get ready for us. You're as peppy as ever. Oh? Is she a newcomer? Uh-huh. This is Reina Ryugu. Don't underestimate her. She's good. No, I'm not. Nice to meet you. Yo, you too. I brought all kinds of prizes this year. It'll be a real battle to win. Try and take them all with you if you can. Reina tends to dote on cute stuff. Yeah, that stuffed animal looks just like your type. What? Huh? It's so cute. I want to take it home with me. Hey, the booth isn't open yet. What? Whoa! Stop it, Reina. He says the booth isn't open yet. You can run him into the ground once he opens it up. It's mine. I'm taking it home. Reina lost her marbles over the stuffed animal. Everyone laughed. And that's exactly what it sounded like. Thank you for providing that. Everyone laughed. Everyone except Satoko. She was standing by herself some distance from the crowd. Her eyes looked dull. What is it, Rika? Rika walked up to Satoko, smiling ear to ear in an effort to cheer her up. Forget your worries today. Let's just have fun. Satoko looked down. Even if she got to have fun today, her circumstances at home wouldn't change. Satoko, your evil aunt isn't around. I know that. So why don't you have fun? I'm doing my best. It's cute. I kind of want to turn the voice lines just so we can hear Nipa. Just 1 minute of that, right? Oh my goodness. It's still cascading. Reina's still going. I guess we'll just keep going. Sorry. I don't feel like it. Could you please leave? There's a Nipa. Why aren't you smiling? Satoko sulkily glimpsed at Rika. She gave her a look, as though she wanted to say that Rika should know the reason. They are cute. They are cute. Definitely worth taking home. Rika deserves head pats at the very least. Even if she could have fun today, nothing would change between her and her evil aunt. No matter how much fun the festival was, once she went home, her aunt would be there. The aunt would find something wrong with Satoko, get mad, and shout at her so loudly the neighbors would hear. How could she have fun, even for one day, while knowing all that? Satoko didn't say that out loud, though, but her eyes betrayed her emotions to Rika. So, Satoko, if your suffering ends today, will you smile? Satoko gasped. She thought Rika might do something to help. But soon after, she realized Rika was just trying to comfort her. Could her suffering end today because of Rika? How? Satoko knew there was really nothing Rika could do. And so after just one moment of freedom, Satoko fell into depression once again. Rika, don't give me false hopes. Satoko. Rika's voice was clearer than Satoko had ever heard before. It's already been decided. June 20th, 1982, 8:11 p.m. Satoshi snuck out the window after supper. He heard the distant ruckus of the festival. The festival would end at 9 p.m. It's 8:11 right now. After the festival ceremony, after the Watanagashi ceremony, there would be a raffle drawing. So there were two types of people in Hinamizawa: the people who would go home for dinner, and those who would stay until the raffle was over. Either relaxing at home or still at the festival. There were only two patterns. On top of that, there weren't many neighbors in the vicinity of Satoshi's house, and as a result, he found nobody on the streets. On that night, the small village seemed especially desolate. Satoshi knew it was going to be like this, but he'd keep worrying until he saw it for himself. He was barefoot, but started running without hesitation. He felt as though he'd become a wild animal running on his bare feet. He got the impression he could run faster than usual. Not only his running ability, his vision, his hearing, and his sense of smell, all his senses were keener, including his sixth sense. He could almost sense the presence of people in the distance. If only when crouching like an animal. It felt strange, as though he'd stepped into another world. He'd been feeling tense and anxious until today, battling with his own fear, but now he felt as though he'd metamorphosed into a different person. June 20th, 1982, 8:37 p.m., 20 minutes before the raffle. 23 to be precise. Alright everyone, I'm going to explain how the raffle works. Please gather around the altar. The festival reached its climax, the raffle was going to start. They're doing a raffle instead of the actual Watanagashi festival deal. Interesting. No Shrine Maiden dance? Both the women who were dancing and those who were waiting for the raffle gathered around the altar. This was the first time they'd held a raffle. The planning committee decided to hold one from this year onwards to attract more people to the festival. At first, the prizes were things the committee members donated, but Oryu, not appreciating how pathetic they looked, had them thrown away. Oryu took the initiative and bought a brand new TV, a washing machine, a cooling fan, and other such things for the raffle. The committee wanted to keep it small initially, but it turned out big thanks to her. Oryu was upset because the committee members weren't enthusiastic enough, in her opinion. Some of the members thought it would be difficult to prepare prizes of equal value the following year, so this might be the first and last raffle. Thanks to you, we have such wonderful prizes this year, Oryu-san. They must have cost a lot, didn't they? We can reimburse you from our budget. Buffoon. No point in reimbursing that. It was never about the money. Idiots. Oh no, don't say that. The raffle is all thanks to you, Oryu. It's not like I'm doing this by myself. Don't be ridiculous. The mayor, Kimiyoshi, was having a tough time pacifying Oryu. All of a sudden, one of the committee members burst into the tent in a rush. He looked upset, so Kimiyoshi assumed somebody probably got hurt in an accident. What's going on, Makino? I hope you're not having a heart attack. Kimiyoshi made a joke to calm him down. Makino still looked tense. He whispered something to Kimiyoshi, and even without hearing the exchange between them, it was plain as day. There was bad news. Oryu-san. I have unpleasant news, if you don't mind. Kimiyoshi, accompanied by Makino, moved to Oryu's side and spoke in a very serious tone. Kimiyoshi whispered to her the exact same words Makino told him. Oh dear, this is bad. Ain't unexpected. What happens thrice happens a fourth time. That's not funny, Oryu-san. You're right, isn't it? It's just another hassle. The police are trying to identify the body. I heard the face was completely destroyed, so it'll be difficult. It's quite clear who it is, though. Wait, hold up. It's another hassle. It's quite clear who it is, though. Do you know who it might be? Oryu glared at Kimiyoshi and then started chuckling. Idiot. It must be some impudent lad who didn't come home to the Watanagashi festival. People who respect Oyashiro-sama won't get involved in something like that. Oryu kept laughing. Kimiyoshi and Makino didn't know how to react to that. June 20th, 1982 at 9:04 p.m. Ooh, a new sprite. Who's this guy on the right? This is merciless. Kuma-chan, every death is merciless unless the dead wished for it. I have my condolences. How's it going over there? Did you find something that could identify the body? The forensic investigators shook their heads. The victim's wearing sandals and casual clothes. They must be from this neighborhood. We should be able to identify the corpse by asking about. That's the way we do it. The section manager says this case might become classified, so be careful with that. Gotcha. Kumagai gathered some officers and gave them directions. Dr. Erie's arrived. Doctor, it's over here. A young doctor got out of his car and headed in the victim's direction. Hello. I'm sorry to have kept you waiting. I had to help with the raffle. You must have drunk a lot at the festival, Doctor. Are you sure you're sober? Maybe I should run a breathalyzer test on you just to be safe. I'm fine. My assistant is driving. Clever. Hey, let the doctor pass. There was an area cordoned off with blue plastic sheets. I like how he's just like, yeah, I wasn't driving the car, don't worry. I was like, I wasn't driving the car. It'd be a dumb idea to show up drunk to a police investigation. That's an easy way to get a DUI, man. An officer rolled up the sheet and let Uishi and Irie pass. But, I mean, some people have alcohol problems, so I'm sure someone's shown up to a police investigation drunk. And drove the car there. The forensic people were taking photos from many different angles. Blood splatters and bloody sandals were left untouched, marked with chalk, indicated with small alphabetized plates. I'm not used to seeing things like this. Irie took out a handkerchief and covered his nose. You should breathe through your mouth. Well, you might sense the smell visually, though. The body appeared to be that of a middle-aged woman, soaked in blood. It looked like a middle-aged woman because of the hair and what she was wearing. The reason why no one could be certain it was middle-aged was because, well, its face was completely pulverized. Did he beat her face in with a baseball bat, too? This is brutal. I'm sure it was done out of malice. The victim must have been murdered right here, judging from the pattern of blood splatters in the soles of the sandals. Even though not many people take this road, the body is right in the middle of it. It's very unusual to see a culprit who would bludgeon their victim until their face was completely destroyed. Also, hello, there's no space between the period and A. Can you look at her arms? Uishi put on latex gloves and lifted the corpse's arm. See? Spotless, aren't they? Are you saying the victim didn't try to protect her head? There's no sense of struggle? Right you are. I think the victim lost consciousness with the first blow. Then the culprit kept beating to complete the murder. The victim was probably lying face down at the time, judging from the stains on her clothes. Body's face up now. The culprit seems to have flipped the victim over in order to smash her face, even though by that point, her death was certain. Irie looked like he was going to throw up both because of the putrid smell and Uishi's reasoning. Smashing the victim's face is clearly signs of a grudge, in my experience. A very profound grudge, too. That means the culprit must be someone very close to the victim. I understand you didn't call me to resuscitate her. Doctor, do you know who the victim is? If you do, I don't have to waste time questioning the neighbors. Irie looked at the body once again. He looked away very quickly and thought. And then after a while, Irie left the investigation area without saying anything. Sorry, I don't know. Are you sure? Uishi smirked and looked into Irie's eyes, as though Irie was hiding something. I'm not hiding anything. Except for the fact that he's clearly lying to the police. I guess you're still under the influence, Doctor. Maybe you'll remember when you're sober. Let me know if you do. Uishi tapped Irie on the back. The doctor, saying he wanted some fresh air, left the scene. Kumagai returned. Uishi, the section manager's on the radio. The one in the first car. So this is clearly the aunt's body, right? And Irie's just like, oh, she's dead. I'm not helping with this. I'm pretty sure that's how that seems like it's going. Because he's, well, actually I don't know. He seemed ready to arrest Keiichi the second he thought he was the killer. But maybe it's because he thought he was insane? I don't know. Alright, radio in the first car. Irie lied. Yep. Nothing. Hurry up and question the neighbors. The victim must be from this area. Yeah, Ari's clearly lying, right? His reaction is like, he looks at the body, goes, and then walks away. He's like, I don't know. That's not the reaction of someone who doesn't know who the killer is. June 20th, 1982, 9:39 p.m., about 30 minutes later. Okay. Who is she? Here he is. Thank you for coming here this late at night. I know you have school tomorrow. I'm really sorry to bother you. No problem. Where's your father? My stepfather doesn't come home much. Uh-huh. Since when? When did he last come home? I don't know. I heard he's living with a woman who works at a club in Okinomiya or something. I don't remember exactly when. I guess I saw him a few weeks ago. Uh-huh. You have your father's address? No. He's living with a woman who works at a club? Do you know the name of the place? No. I know it's in Okinomiya and that's all. What's your father's name? Pepe Hojo. Ueshi signaled Kumagai with his chin, who nodded while taking notes. Were your mother and father getting along well? I don't know much about that, but I don't think so. I see. I want you to tell me honestly, do you know anyone who might have been holding a grudge against your stepmother? I don't. Alright. Please tell me if you remember something. List of people who have a grudge against the stepmother. Literally every single person in town, especially Satoshi. And a little bit of Shion, right? A little bit Shion. Here's my card. My number's on it. Alright. I might ask to see you again for further inquiries, and if you see your stepfather, please let him know we want to contact him. Give him a chance. Drive him home, will you? No. I can go home by myself. Please, let us drive you home. There's a possibility the culprit who murdered your aunt's roaming the neighborhood. You might get hurt, too. Thank you for your consideration, but really, I'm fine. Satoshi tried to reject the offer, but Ueshi and Kumagai insisted, and in the end, he was forced to accept. He turned around to leave, when Ueshi spoke to him as if he remembered something he'd forgotten to say. Hojo-san. Yes. Don't worry, it's no problem. We'll catch the culprit soon. Do you have any leads? Yes, we do. Like what? That's confidential. Ordinary people might think Ueshi was trying to cheer the poor kid up with a joke. Well, usually people get pretty worked up when they commit murder. Though of course there are some exceptions. What kind of evidence do you find when the culprit's worked up? When somebody's in an excited condition, their body shows many symptoms like sweat, loss of hair. We often find the culprit's hair at crime scenes. I like how he's subtly trying to like intimidate Satoshi. And Satoshi, on the outside, this man looks like a fucking rock. Like he seems rock solid here. But that's because we're not seeing things from his perspective. Maybe he's sweating like, he's sweating buckets and terrified that he already knows. Well, this is outside, so it's a bit different, but still. Did you find some hair? I don't know yet. The forensic guys are searching the scene now. I'm anxious to see what they'll bring me. Excuse me, I have to go now. Please, come up, would you? Sure. Hojo-san, see you again soon. I'll let you know if there's any progress in the investigation. Let me know when you remember something. Let's cooperate to catch the murderer of your stepmother. And he's... I mean, just from the reaction of seeing, like, your dead stepmother's body, being like, oh, okay. It's like, well, list of people who don't like the stepmother. This kid. That's, alright. Literally, like, 5 seconds. As good as he is at being, like, a fucking stonewall when it comes to answers there. Much better than a certain someone. Keiichi. Keiichi, yeah. He's probably not gonna... He's also not reacting the way a normal person would to their parents dying. One of their parents dying, he's like, oh, she's dead, okay. Or at least how the police probably expect you to react. Considering he didn't even, like, actually say anything regarding the fact that she's dead, but they did kind of skip half the scene, so... We came into it, like, midway through the scene. So maybe he had a reaction. we just missed. Sis called the morning after Watanagashi to tell me the curse struck again for the 4th time. The victim was the evil ant harassing Satoshi and Satoko. Satoshi's suffering should be over now since the problem was with Satoko and the ant's relationship to begin with. Maybe I should have celebrated, but I wasn't in the mood for some reason. Did the police have a lead on the suspect? This went quiet when I asked that. I don't know. Ishi seems to be questioning people in the neighborhood. He thinks the culprit's someone close to the victim. Being identical twins, Sis and I think very much alike. If I suspected Satoshi of being the murderer, so would she. And because of this, I didn't have to mention the obvious. Does he have an alibi for that day? I don't know. I heaved a huge sigh. Are you stupid? He was at the festival, didn't you see him there? Yeah, right. Sorry, I didn't realize that. I heaved another sigh. Sis was stupid enough to forget to make an alibi for him, even though the murder of his aunt alone would raise enough suspicion? I like how they're like, he was at the festival, right? Everyone saw that. So that means he did do it? It's not important now. The problem is whether he has an alibi or not. Well, the police are going to come here later. I'll tell them I was with him at the festival. Sis? Lying out of the blue like that won't work. If you haven't done anything to ensure his alibi, it's too late now. Just be honest with them. I can't trust your acting skills. But raise more suspicion if you make something up on the spot. Yeah, sorry. She sounded depressed. I was the one who should have been depressed. Mion usually handles things well, but she's not good with emergencies. I was left worried for the future of the Sonosaki family. Mion must have been embarrassed. She shouldn't change the subject. Change the subject. I guess you haven't been able to work lately, have you? You're right, I haven't. Thanks to you. Sorry about that. I'll hide somewhere until tonight. Maybe you could work today? Sis had been appearing in public places during festival preparations and whatnot. As a result, I hadn't been able to pretend to be her. I hadn't been able to work. And as someone who had to support myself, it was a bit of a pain. To be honest, I didn't feel like working, but I couldn't afford to be sitting around either. When I locked my apartment door before leaving the door, the next apartment opened and Kasai appeared. Shion, are you heading in? Yeah, I'm going to work since this gave me time until tonight. Can you give me a ride? Shion, wouldn't it be safer for you to take a few days off? The police are staking out the main house. I don't think it's a good idea to leave. I appreciate your concern, but I have to make money to survive. Kasai might suggest he donate money to my cause. However, I swore to myself when I started living here I wouldn't depend on Kasai. While I don't obey anyone else's rules, I stick to my own. Kasai could tell I was adamant in my decision, so after repeating himself a couple times as a formal procedure, he decided to give me a ride after all. Every time we went to my uncle's store by car, we stopped at this traffic light. Don't you hate that? Some lights you just always hit reds. Every single damn time. I have like this annoying light. It's the light right after I turn. If I could like take my first right and then take my first left from where I live, I swear to fucking God, every single day. You always get a fucking red. You always get a red. 100%. Every time. It sucks. The worst part is the lights are offset in the morning really poorly. For some stupid reason. It's unbelievable, but like I'm not even joking. They have this like if the opposite side from the main route which I would be on, so like opposite to me, gets if there's an advance or a double advance, they like no joke, the advance on the near side to me will end, so like we won't be able to go anywhere. The left advance will continue and then end, and then the like go forward will start for about 5 seconds. About like 5 to 10 seconds. There is literally only go straight if you're on the far side. It's really weird. And I'm not exaggerating this because I've actually come from the other direction and seen it from the fucking front row seats. I literally like drove from the other direction at around the same time of day, got to like first plate, you know, right before the stoplight while it was red, watched the advances happen, drove, whipped my head around to the left, and saw that the light after I went through the intersection was completely red, meaning for no fucking reason. They have a complete red on one side of the intersection. and a straight only on the other side. I have no clue what the fuck the traffic designers are thinking. They're complete idiots. Considering the next two lights are only triggered to change red by people sitting at like the intersection in cars or crosswalks. It's like, what are these traffic designers doing? They're so dumb. Like literally adding like 30 seconds to everyone's commute to work for like no reason. It's, you know, wait 5 to 10 seconds, and then if you're not the first car, it's like another 5 seconds, etc., etc. Yeah, so this traffic light, I knew it was going to happen again, but it still irritated me. Pedestrians pass by in front of the car. Okay, that's an okay excuse. If there's people who are going the other way, I mean, that's fine. You gotta stop. If it's a high traffic intersection with traffic both ways, it is what it is. I was startled to see that one of them looked like Satoshi. It was him. Though I'd spoken with him on the phone just a couple days before, it had been a while since I saw him last. Sorry, could you tell my uncle I can't come today? I'm getting out of here. Off here. What? Shion? Kasai looked taken aback, but I got out of the car regardless. The light turned green. The car behind him honked while Kasai was shouting at me, so we had to start moving. Satoshi was on his bike, but he was going slowly. I caught up with him in a flash and tapped him on the back. Hello? I'm surprised to see you in Okonomiya, Satoshi-kun. If I talked to him with a smile, he might smile back. So I smiled as brightly as I could. Mia. He looked tired as always, but as I could tell, he was trying to smile back. My worries suddenly disappeared. I was certain I looked happy.
Hello there.
Hello there, General Kenobi. I was aware of that myself, so it must have been obvious to Satoshi-kun. I don't know the circumstances, but you look happy. Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy because you look happy. When I teased him, he looked a bit embarrassed. It was like we were back in the good old days like 2 days ago. I felt even happier than before. What's going on, Satoshi? Did something good happen? Not really. My aunt died. I have to deal with the police and the neighbors. I might have asked something dumb. He seemed to be okay with it, though. He frowned a bit at first, but Satoshi continued smiling gently. He looked worn out but satisfied, like he accomplished something great. Huh. What could he have accomplished that's so great in the last 24 hours? I wonder. That was the mood I sensed from him. So I was convinced the one who killed that wicked ant who tormented Satoko was him. I had no proof, but I knew it intuitively. So I omitted all those questions. I knew Satoshi's motive for killing his aunt and how badly he was driven into a corner. I knew the environment and the situation he was in. And I knew Satoshi-kun's feelings. I knew all of that. So I omitted all those questions. I wanted to celebrate his release from the curse, so I smiled like nothing was different as I asked, "Where are you going, Satoshi? To work?" That's right. I have to make a stop before that, though. A stop? I have to make sure it's still there, otherwise I'll continue feeling really anxious. Conversation reminded me, the reason he started his part-time job was to buy Satoko a huge teddy bear. It was being sold at a toy store just down the street. I recalled the teddy bear was very expensive. Satoko's birthday was right after the festival. I wasn't sure what day, though. Wait, didn't he say he quit his job? Maybe he's going to greet his ex-coworkers and clean out his locker or something? Either way, he'd be completely free very soon. Maybe he hadn't been paid yet. That's why he wanted to check if they still had the teddy bear. Maybe he's only getting paid on Satoko's birthday? When he got near the toy store, he rushed to the display window. This is owned by the Sonozakis. You should be very careful about coming here. He looked relieved it hadn't been sold yet. Good. Alright. It's still there. You've earned enough money already, haven't you? Why don't you reserve it? He probably hadn't thought of that. He really did need someone to look after him. I looked into the display window over his shoulder. The teddy bear wasn't that cute. In my opinion, it was huge and cramped in the middle of the store's showcase. Really, it looked more like a display model than an item for sale. I don't see a price tag. Is it really for sale? How much is it? Yeah, I'm sure they sell it. What about the price? Does it fit your budget? It's alright, I already checked. Satoshi thought I was teasing him again. He pouted and looked a little sulky. There's no problem then. Why don't you go reserve it now? Then you won't have to feel anxious anymore. We entered the store and looked for a clerk. Is anybody here? Nice. Maybe you can get it without paying? No. Stealing is bad. I'm kidding, I'm kidding. Trying to make you laugh. Do you think I'd really do that? No, sorry. Satoshi smiled apologetically. I puffed up my cheeks to tease him. It had really been a while since the last time we did this. Is Mion gonna be working here? In between those times, many undesirable things happened that I wanted to forget, but now I felt as though all those things simply vanished into the air around us. I found an old person napping in the back. He must be the clerk, I thought. He looked fast asleep. Excuse me, you work here, right? I poked his shoulder, but it didn't look like he was gonna wake up. When I did that, a middle-aged woman wearing an apron came in. Grandpa, you fell asleep again. We have customers. Sorry, you two. He's been very flaky, you know. The middle-aged woman shook the old man awake and told him to go back to the living room. I guess that's why Mion's working here. Mion's working here next year, right? She went to the cash register after that. So embarrassing. How can I help you? I'd like to reserve something. That big teddy bear in the display window? Oh, that one? You sure? It's really expensive. You know that, right? Yes, I think I have enough. He'll get paid really soon, so he'd like to reserve it. The woman looked hesitant at first, but eventually wrote down Satoshi-kun's name and accepted the reservation. Satoshi received a slip of paper. See? You don't have to worry about the teddy bear anymore. Yeah, I'll get paid soon, too. I feel relieved now. He would have kept coming to check every day if he hadn't done this now. He would have spent his time needlessly worrying. He looked very, very relieved indeed, and I did see that miniature Godzilla in the shelves on the left. I should have done that sooner. Usually people do that right away when they want something. It's very rare for someone not to think of that. It's so fun to tease him. Those painful days seem unbelievable now. Satoshi looked like he'd forgotten everything that happened up until yesterday. Anyway, thanks. Satoshi held out his hand to touch my head. Was he gonna stroke it? I felt my face reddening already. Even before he touched my head, I felt tingly remembering the last time. I didn't care about the murder or whatever else happened. As long as he had his freedom, everything would be okay. I'd be content as long as we could live happily from today onwards. But Satoshi's hand never reached my head. I slowly opened my eyes, only to realize the situation drastically changed. There were 4 men in suits blocking our way. It looked as though they'd been waiting for us to exit the toy store. Hello, hello. The oldest of the 4 men stepped forward while smirking. I'd never met this man, but it looked like he knew both Mion and Satoshi. He's probably a cop. I ran a search for information on my head and found some right away. Good to see both of you, Hojo and Sonozaki. Sorry to bother you at a time like this. This must be Kurado Uishi, the cop who's investigating the series of mysterious deaths. He thinks the Sonozaki family is behind all the cases. In other words, he's an enemy of the Sonozaki family. He has deep connections with other investigation divisions in the police force, and he likes to nose around the businesses in this area. He annoys the Sonozaki family enough as is by interfering with its Yakuza business, let alone his suspicions on the series of mysterious deaths. I like how he's like, how dare he interfere with Yakuza business? Well, naturally, as the family's successor, he's not a welcome figure to me on Sonozaki. I tried to imagine how Sis would react. Uishi-san, thank you for working so hard for our safety. The 4 of you want something from this toy store? A doll, perhaps? I know what they want. It's not a toy. It's probably not me, either. They want Satoshi-kun. I took a look at Satoshi-kun, and he seemed a bit uncomfortable. The other 3 cops loosely surrounded us to prevent our escape. Hojo-san, I'd like to talk with you about something. What for? Are you taking him to the station? You don't have to go with him, Satoshi. Let's get out of here. I pushed on his shoulder, but he just stood there looking pale and bewildered. Bewildered? No, he actually looked resigned. And then, I recalled Sis's mistake. It's obvious he killed his aunt from the circumstances. You don't even have to look at the crime scene. How could Mion have failed to create an alibi? That stupid Mion. She must have spoken to the police without making anything up at all. She must have not told them that she knew where Satoshi-kun was. If she hadn't done anything, the villagers wouldn't work to help her. It's just a matter of time until the police uncovered Satoshi-kun's complete lack of an alibi. The police were trying to corner him and lead him to confess. Wait, you're Mion. I looked at Satoshi-kun's face once again. He looked like a dead man. He probably didn't know he could refuse to be interrogated. If he was taken to the station and grilled by Ueshi, he'd confess in a minute. Somebody had to protect him. Nobody'd ever been there for him. I had to step up now. Alright, now's your chance. Now's your chance, Shion. But how? How? Well. How? Well, this is where you casually say, alright, I'll catch you later. I'll catch you later, thanks for the fun at the festival, and leave. You just casually throw that out there. Like you're going and like you got somewhere to be. That's what you do. You're just like, oh fuck it, I'm leaving, take care, and just casually throw that out. Would it be possible to alter what Mion already told them, saying it was a mistake? That wasn't gonna work. If I had more time, I'd come up with an excellent idea, but I didn't have that much time at all. To pressure him, the cops were drawing nearer. Satoshi must have felt intimidated. He might end up turning himself in due to the pressure while I'm stuck trying to come up with something. I have to do something now. Alright, Shion. I have to say something. Otherwise Satoshi might give in. I have to save him. Ueshi drew nearer. Satoshi fell back. It won't take much time. Come on, don't be scared. It won't take much time? He just said it. He just said he wouldn't let him out if he caught him now. Satoshi, don't give in. If you give in now, everything you've been working for will be ruined. Ugh. Satoshi looked like he was at his breaking point, and Ueshi was clearly aware of it. Ueshi smirked and held out his arm to grab Satoshi's shoulder. I felt electrified when I saw that. That hand shouldn't be allowed to touch Satoshi-kun. The moment Ueshi touched his shoulder, he'd give in. He'd go to the police station and confess everything. Oh, do you want to know his alibi? Ueshi turned his face towards me. His left hand left hanging in the air. I wasn't very prepared for this. I just had to stop Ueshi no matter what. I only needed to gain a little time. It didn't really matter what I said. That's right. I want to get Hojo-san's alibi. We must not be doing our jobs. We can't seem to confirm his whereabouts at the time of the crime. It's shameful, but we decided to question him in person. Oh, you don't have to ask him. I can confirm his alibi. Oh, really? That'd help. You already told me you were at the festival that night, and many people can confirm it. It'd be easier if we could confirm that Hojo was with you. But I don't think you mentioned it when I questioned you last time, did you? Are you going to change your statement now? Even though no one at the festival saw Hojo-san, are you going to tell me he was with you? That's right. He was with me. Wouldn't that be enough? I know you were there with your other friends that night. I saw them myself. Are you still saying you're with him? Isn't that a little hard to believe? Isn't it? Ueshi approached me with a creepy smile. Was he teasing me because my excuse sounded funny? I didn't think so. He was frustrated due to being interrupted when he was about to catch a big fish. Are you saying you forgot you were with him, but just now remembered you actually were? Mion Sonozaki-san? I did get a little scared, but I couldn't stop myself. I would save Satoshi if I revealed my real identity. I'm aware of the risk. Grandma would certainly capture me if I revealed it. But I didn't think of the consequences after that. I'm not Mion Sonozaki. I didn't go to the festival in the first place. What? Satoshi and I were talking in a restaurant in Okinomiya at the time. The name of the place is Angel More. You can confirm that with the owner if you want. Ueshi was still smirking, but he apparently felt confused. What are you saying? If you aren't Mion, then who are you? I'm Shion Sonozaki, Mion's twin sister. Pleasure to meet you, Ueshi-san. He looked perplexed, like he didn't believe what I'd said. He frowned. I didn't know Mion had a twin sister. Are you trying to fool me? Not at all. Why don't you check my family register or whatever? Should I call sis? All the cops look bewildered now. Shion Sonozaki-san? It's me. Is there anything wrong? Can you come with us? You're testifying you're with Hojo that night. I have to talk to you too. Sure thing. Please go easy on us. Alright. Alright, that's a ballsy move. She didn't even check with the owner of Angel Mort. She's just like, fuck it. Yeah, we were at Angel Mort, the place where I work. The cops gathered at their car and started discussing something. It looked like they never expected this to happen. Wait, shit, the cop is either nice or an asshole. He's a police officer. He's a police officer. They only ever play nice when they're trying to get you on their side. That's exactly, like, especially because we've changed perspectives several times to people who are, like, directly opposed to the police. Either for literally no reason or for fairly, well, understandable reasons. I wouldn't say reasonable reasons, but I would say understandable. Like, if you've murdered someone and are trying to hide it, you probably are opposed to the police. If you're on the side of someone who's opposed to the police, you're probably opposed to the police. Yeah, it's a normal cop. It's a normal cop. Alright. They never expected this to happen. I hope to be able to fake Satoshi-kun's alibi for at least a little while. It shouldn't be too difficult to talk to Sis about this and then forge up an alibi together. Satoshi-kun, tell them you were chatting with the Angel Mort last night, no matter what they ask, okay? I'll confirm your alibi. Tell them you don't remember the night too clearly, or maybe you should just keep silent. Satoshi wore a startled expression. Though I was telling him something important, he'd apparently decided not to listen. Can you hear me, Satoshi? Satoshi? You can't mess this up, okay? Okay. He must have been feeling deceived. No wonder. I just confessed I wasn't Mion, but her twin sister. I really had been deceiving him. Are you upset? Why? I've been fooling you? Satoshi started laughing. I didn't know why he'd laugh, because he wasn't the type of person who would laugh in order to hide something. Finally understand why you're so weird sometimes in class. I've been thinking it was a bit strange. Aren't you upset? I've been fooling you? Satoshi looked puzzled. It was like he didn't know whether he should be upset about it or not. Or maybe he's only pretending to be that way. This isn't the first time we've met, is it? Well, yeah. Okay. How do you write your name? With the characters for poetry and sound. On is sound, that makes sense. Shion. That's a beautiful name. Could you please come with us to the station? We can get you instant coffee or tea if you'd like. Can't believe Satoshi is that relevant to the anime. He just exists. I haven't actually seen the anime. I don't know what arcs they cover. This is like the 5th arc. In the anime, he's important for the Shion arc. That would make sense. I thought the first anime, the older one, covers covers these arcs, and then the remake that came out like a couple years ago. That one's new arcs, right? That aren't in visual novel form. Alright, new tips. This is gonna be tough. They have to make up an alibi on the spot and lie their way through the police. Through the police interrogation. And then hopefully, like, oh man. Either Satoshi-kun was smart or very lucky, or maybe it wasn't him. The police found nothing at the crime scene to indicate his involvement in the murder. Yet he was still the prime suspect. Considering his home environment, he had a strong enough motive. He had no alibi. The police had everything other than physical evidence. It wasn't surprising Ueshi took a chance. He probably didn't expect me to step in, but what I did was too little to avert his suspicion of Satoshi-kun. Ueshi believed Satoshi-kun did it. He was waiting for Satoshi to fall apart and confess. That's what both Ueshi and I were thinking. But that hypothesis was destroyed later on. I'll not talk about it now. In Go, there is Bunny Suit Keiichi with Bunny Suit Satoshi eating ice cream together as part of a Batsu game. Oh. Nice, nice. So I'll not talk about it now, but Ueshi's theory will be disproven and the police will be thrown into shock. A question comes to mind. That is, who saved Satoshi-kun? I can only think of the possibility that the Sonozaki family invented the culprit. And now you remember this scene existing. There's some pretty good punishment games in this series. Unfortunately, they've kind of like veered away from having actual interesting punishments in like really weird games. In the last arc that we had with Keiichi as the protagonist, and it seems like Satoshi may not be playing. I mean, he's supposed to be part of the club, but we haven't actually gotten any perspectives from him playing the club or any fun game moments. Like they probably just started skipping them or aren't including them because they were probably thinking like, okay, you've seen people play club games with Mion like a million times already, right? Like, you probably don't want to do this, but maybe, just maybe, we'll see it in like the next arc or something. We're at the grim part of the arc, so we're not going to see that. Not for a while, at any rate. And I think it's only been a couple hours, or even less than that. So we can also just keep going and get on to chapter, whatever this is, 7? The cops were smart enough to separate us during questioning. That is literally standard procedure, but for good reason. Ueshi didn't come to talk to me. His aim was Satoshi-kun and nobody else. I got a young cop who just talked about ordinary things. He must have been trying to ease me into the interrogation. When I realized that, the clumsy way he spoke began to frustrate me. Is Satoshi-kun alright? I didn't think Ueshi really bought my testimony. He must have been trying to get Satoshi to confess in spite of that. All I could do was pray he'd keep quiet. The phone on the desk rang and the cop picked it up. This is Kumagai. What? Alright. I understand. Right away. He hung up and told me someone had come to retrieve me. It looked like Satoshi had to stay. Were they going to continue the interrogation just because he had nobody to pick him up? Although maybe I should have been worrying more about myself. The hag had probably heard about me by now since I revealed my real identity to the police. Is it Kumagai who's an agent of Oryu? I can't freaking remember. I don't think it's Kumagai. I think it's someone else. I couldn't hide any longer. I was gonna receive some sort of punishment. I had no idea what she'd end up doing for me. Or to me. For me. No. The degree of punishment for a traitor is always severe in the world of the Sonozakis. The punishment must be carried out. If it's to protect the family reputation, it's carried out no matter what. Maybe I should kiss my pinky finger while I still can. I asked the young cop just in case. Hey, you know in America if a contempt criminal gets arrested in a state that's banned capital punishment, they'll refuse to surrender him to the state prosecuting if the state hasn't banned it? Does he know that? Maybe it was too difficult for him. He looked puzzled. A glossy black car was waiting for me in front of the police station. A few men from my dad's office bowed to me. It's been a long time, Shion-san. Where's Kasai? Kasai had been helping me ever since my escape from the school. They wouldn't allow him to walk free. How's Sis doing? Did she have something to say about this? We were only told to bring you to the main house. Please ask her when you get there. After saying that, he escorted me into the car. A man sat on either side of me, obviously not wanting me to escape. Thinking of Satoshi-kun, I looked back at the police station. I'd like to point out that her allegory here does not apply because Japan has capital punishment. So they would just hand her over. Oh. Hold on tight, Satoshi. I'll grin and bear it too. The car started off roughly. It was never a good occasion when I went to this house. Except when Mion and I were really small, oblivious of what the Sonozaki name meant for us. I'd been here only when I had to attend boring family councils. The car parked behind the house. Traitors aren't allowed in through the main gate. I got out of the car, and it looked like Sis would be the only person to receive me. I almost spoke to her casually, but her cold gaze froze me before I could. It's been a while, Shion. I never expected to see you other than on New Year's. It gave me chills to hear her greet me in that cold manner. It's a pleasure to see you again, Mion-sama. I feel overjoyed to have the chance to see you other than on New Year's. I responded, trying to sound likewise. Our leader is deeply upset. I wonder how you'll explain yourself. Oh, I have nothing to explain. I had no excuse. I'd escaped from the school solely because I couldn't stand it there. That was all. Shion, come this way. Everyone's waiting for you. Mion escorted me, and the others followed. We went to the garden, not into the house. As we passed through the huge yard in the woods, I realized where she was taking me. When we were little, we were told never to go near these woods. I had a vague idea of what was in the back of them. I heard there was a hidden entrance to the underground torture room where they used to punish enemies of the family. The more hideous rumors I heard about the family, the more credible those rumors seemed. Well, I wasn't completely certain about any of that. I never expected to see the torture room for myself. We came to a concave clearing in the middle of the woods. I saw a metal door at the bottom of it, and the door reminded me of a bomb shelter. So, this is the torture room, huh? I was surprised to hear my own voice. My voice was trembling, and it made me realize I was more scared than I thought. Nobody answered my question. The very air felt tense. According to family rules, one of the twins must be eliminated. Was I finally going to be eliminated? I realized I'd been underestimating my punishment. I hadn't been aware of the real terror until now. I just thought I was. Beyond the steel door, the air had an intimidating smell. This really was happening to me. I mean, even if she did this with, like, way too much bravado, that's still gotta be crazy brave. And also, like, a weird value proposition, but okay. I shouldn't allow myself to give in to fear. I felt like saying something rude, but my lips were dry and my fingers were fidgeting. I was escorted through the narrow hallway and down a few sets of stairs. And there, I saw another huge steel door. So, this is the place. It was spacious and utterly an odd-looking room. The room had two sections that looked completely different. One side was like a lounge. I saw several high-ranking members of the family council sitting on cushions there, looking expressionless. The other half was tiled as if in a large public bath. That was already puzzling enough. And there were those things. To be honest, they captured my attention from the moment I arrived. I noticed them before I even saw the lounge in the tiled space. I just didn't want to accept they existed. I couldn't stand straight. I almost dropped to my knees. But I couldn't. Two young men had been holding me by the arm since I got here. There were oddly shaped things hanging from the wall. I was just refusing to recognize what they were. I knew exactly what they were called. I see. I understood that those eerily shaped objects were torture devices. Straight from hell. Damn fool. How dare you return? The hag sitting at the front of the lounge intimidated me in a horrid voice. She kept cursing me for a little while, but was so incensed I could barely tell what she was saying. I knew what she was trying to say, though. The hag was willing to forgive my escape from the school, but once I revealed my identity to the police, she had to step in. Since I disobeyed the family rule, she, as leader, was forced to punish me. Moreover, there was one thing that bothered her more than anything else. The fact that I covered for Satoshi could. The Hojo family had been seen as traitors to the village ever since that damn conflict. Satoshi is still considered one of them. She couldn't accept I was connected to him. To me, this was a bit unexpected. I'd escaped from the school the hag put me in, and all the while believed that was what she was upset about, but in fact she said she was most uncomfortable with my connection to Satoshi. Couldn't fucking believe it. Of course, I knew Satoshi's family was persecuted for their betrayal, but I didn't think Satoshi was also burdened with that responsibility. I mean, your grandmother is a complete bitch. I know you're calling her the hag, but like, come on, man. You're actually, like, semi-accurate in this case. Like, she's actually, like, a horrible person. And a control freak. I don't know what you expected. He has nothing to do with it. I understand his parents were ostracized, but he shouldn't be... Shut the hell up! The hag interrupted me with a shout which made me cower in fear. She continued slandering the Hojos and said that Satoshi was a cursed child. Again, this bitch. She's a terrible person. I started feeling pissed off. What did he do to deserve this? What was he being blamed for? It was too late when I realized I'd said that out loud. The hag looked furious. I'd obviously upset her. I decided to repeat myself to make it very clear how I felt. What are you saying, you old hag? Everything you've spouted is nonsense. Shion's being great. I appreciate her at least. I appreciate Shion being like, well, oh, I might be dying in 5 minutes. You know what? Fuck you. Alright. Go for it, Shion. I'm cheering her on. I can't believe anyone likes Mion more. This is fantastic. It doesn't matter if she spends literally the rest of the fucking thing being tortured. The rest of the fucking like chapter being tortured to death. This would still be great. What do you? Huh? Who the hell do you think you're talking to? Shut the fuck up and let me finish. I shouted loudly to silence the hag. The fuck do you know about Satoshi? How dare you talk about him like some pest? You don't even know anything about him. I know how sweet he is. You don't like him because he's a hojo? How fucking stupid is that? Is even your brain archaic or what? You hate the fact that a Sonozaki's a hojo that much? That's not stupid, that's beyond stupid. Boy, I never expected to feel like fucking Juliet. My voice became hoarse from shouting. My face was messy with tears. And even so, I didn't feel like putting a stop to my emotional explosion. It's like, she's like there's like a 99% chance I'm being tortured to death in the next 2 minutes, so I may as well just tell them to go fuck themselves as loud as I can while they're listening. I was all too aware I was doing this just to overwhelm my fear. The hag was glaring at me while breathing heavily. I glared back at her as fiercely as I could, and eventually, I realized her sticking point was my relationship with Satoshi. She wasn't only upset I had a mere connection with him. I see, it looks like Mion mentioned that too. It was as though Mion was wearing a mask. She didn't budge under my penetrating glare. That was what the hag was really unhappy about. The fact I was in love with Satoshi. I don't give a shit about his family background of my own. I'll admit, I'm in love with him. Wow, she's just like going to 11. Alright, I love Satoshi Hojo. I love him so much. Is that wrong? Do you need a reason to love someone? I could see the relatives shaking their heads in turmoil, and among them I saw my mom. She must have been trying to protect me, but even she wouldn't look at me. Instead, she looked silently at the floor. Guys in the back hear me? Am I wrong? You'd know how sweet he was in an instant if you bothered to get to know him. How could you put him down without... Mion held out a hand to silence me, and then slowly walked in my direction. That's enough, Shion. I understand what you want to say. Mion put her head close to mine and whispered, Shion, I know how you feel. You can't go back after coming this far. You gotta pay for what you did. Oh, what did I do? Why me? That's ridiculous. Shion. Mion's face turned cold again and she calmly told me, you're probably right, but this is Hinamizawa and we're Sonozakis. I'm sure you understand. We're the leaders of the three families. And you're the twin sister of the successor. Mion Sonozaki. And yet, I interrupted her. We haven't agreed on that matter ever since I came back. You're full of this reputation shit. Hinamizawa, the Sonozakis, so what? I don't give a fuck about that. Listen, Mion interrupted me like I did her. How many people did you depend on to start your new life in Okinomiya? Chills shot through my spine. Kasai is in the cell at the back. Why Kasai? I knew why, of course. The moment I got caught, those who helped me were destined to meet the same fate. We were all subject to the punishment of betrayal. To be fair, this family is like complete garbage. So I'd be like, fuck them too. But I probably also wouldn't like walk. I also wouldn't walk into their torture chamber. But you know, whatever, Shion. I can appreciate fiery Shion. Maybe my punishment would be lighter than what they'd be going through. Kasai and Uncle Yoshiro must have been treated much worse than that. Everyone who helped me was falling victim. I know you're prepared for your punishment. Have you ever thought of the punishment, or the consequences that Kasai and Uncle Yoshiro will have to face? My head rapidly cooled down. My aggression was all used up. I should be able to bear whatever punishment they'd bring on me, but I resented the fact that I'd be putting the people who supported me at risk. Shion, apologize to Granny. If you do, the others won't have to suffer. Alright? But Mion, did I really do something wrong? Was any of what I did that bad? The moment Mion learned I wasn't willing to apologize, her expression turned cold again. She turned her back to me and returned to the lounge. I talked back to the hag in a harsh manner. I told her I didn't do anything wrong, and yet I had involved many people who I owed so much to. It went without saying this was my responsibility. I was the sole person to blame, and no fault lay with them. Yes, Kasai and Yoshiro were blameless, just as Satoshi-kun was. But then, as if she read my mind, Mion turned around and gave a slight nod. It was possible something was going to happen to Satoshi. On top of Kasai and Uncle Yoshiro. Wait, sis, that can't happen. Satoshi, I mean, no one else should be punished. Please forgive them. What is it, Shion? Tears rolled down my cheeks. I no longer care about my pride. I'm sorry, I was wrong. Please forgive me. I should have said what the hag wanted to hear, yet she still looked unsatisfied. Maybe that wasn't too surprising. I just denounced her badly in front of her relatives. Yeah, this she's going into a complete fucking meltdown. This punishment, you'd be crying too? Probably. I can see I can see where she's at. I can 100% sympathize. I don't even think she's acting wrong at any point. It's like, I don't know, how prideful are you gonna be at the opportunity to maybe get someone else or yourself out of being tortured to death? Maybe you're willing to, like, apologize even though you don't fucking mean shit. That's usually how it goes. People in authority leverage incredibly harsh punishments until you do whatever they want and apologize. Even if you're completely in the right. Yeah, screw this family for sure. For sure, screw this whole family. They're all terrible people. Actually, Shion's like the least. Shion is like the least terrible person in this whole fucking family. It's so bad. So bad. Like, unfortunately, Shion doesn't have any fucking dirt on this dumb bitch here, or she could just hand it into the police. But then again, the police are also 100% under Sonozaki control due to some lame obsession with Oryu. I don't know why half the fucking family doesn't think this lady's crazy as fuck and ignore her. I'd just be like, hey, I'm gonna get a posting in there, and oh, I won't. I'm out of contact. Alas, they can't flee the country because, well, actually, it's the 80s. Yeah, it's still pretty hard to escape Yakuza clutches, but the Yakuza doesn't typically have a ton of reach in North America, so if they had really good fucking English, they might be able to, like, find a job or immigrate to, like, the US or some shit. That would theoretically put them out of reach. Although that would be, like, really rough to do, right? That'd probably be, like, the only way to escape. Your crazy Yakuza family you're born into is to, like, go to fucking East Coast US. So you need to, like, master English, get a real job, move to another country that doesn't even speak your native language. Like, it's gotta be fucking rough. At least if you're in, like, at least if you speak English, you can move to another country or like move halfway across the fucking continent, which is quite a lot of distance. Enough that, like, people might have a hard time finding you, but you're in fucking Japan where it's like, oh yeah, you're just a bullet train away. It's like 3 hours to find someone. 3 hours to reach it, like, half anywhere. Cause they're in Shishiba. They're in somewhere north, I guess. They're somewhere in the mountains, but it's only like a bullet train ride away from Tokyo, so go to Tokyo and go to wherever else. Yeah, being in this family sucks. Mion and her grandma are both terrible people. But alright, she won't forgive me easily, and just then Mion spoke as successor. So, Shion, how do you propose to pay for this? Hey? What do you want me to do? Nothing can be scarier than being told to pay up while standing next to horrid-looking torture devices. I was completely terrified. I couldn't move from trembling. Mion saw that and whispered to her grandmother. The hag nodded. Mion summoned some young minions and gave them an order. They removed one of the torture devices hanging on the wall. Set a table in front of me and put the device on top of it. What's this? It's a tool for removing fingernails. You know how to use it? No way. I shook as I stared at the tool. It looked like a giant nail clipper. You probably put the part that looks like the beak between your finger and fingernail, pulling them apart if you squeeze the handle. Chills ran up and down my spine when I imagined that. Each fingernail represents one of your responsibilities, Shion Sonozaki. No matter which one you choose. You must remove 3 nails yourself. 3. One for Kasai, one for Yoshiro, and the last for Satoshi. A fairly reasonable number. Will you really not punish the others? Promise me. Please let them go if I do this. This is a punishment, not a negotiation. If you don't like the procedure, I'll do it. Just give me a second, I'm doing it. I put the device to my little finger while shaking badly. I just want to say, I hope Satoshi appreciates this. If my fingernail were shorter, it would have been harder. Metal beak captured my little finger beautifully. Subordinates then stabilized my left hand with a different restraining tool. I was gonna say, fun fact, that your fingernails have like some of the most are like your fingers have like the most nerve endings of basically anywhere, but I'm pretty sure they already mentioned that in like the first and second fucking chapters. So I think everyone who's following this probably knows that. But if you somehow forgot, they did mention that specifically when Keiichi was going to be tortured, or when Takano was showing off the torture devices. So everyone reading this presumably knows that already. Alright, so left hand stabilized. That seemed reasonable. My finger would slip out if it weren't restrained like that. As the subordinates buckled up the leather straps, I realized this was really happening, and there was no escape. Somewhere in my mind, I've been thinking they might forgive me after just the gesture alone, but I shouldn't have been so naive. The emotions I'd been holding back appeared in the form of tears and kept rolling down my cheeks. It was like my feelings were being squeezed out until the very last rip. You know, I'm fucking surprised. You know what's disappointing? Actually, you know what's disappointing? Mion doesn't just fucking poison her aunt. I swear to God. If she's literally the only person on the fucking place, just stab her to death. Or, like, literally just murder her in her sleep. You've already killed, like, 10 people. I know Oryu gets fucking killed, like, next year, but still. Or you might get killed next year, but still. That's because, like, she only gets killed because, like, Mion fucking snaps and goes crazy killing more people, so, like, whatever. Whatever. Like, Mion snaps and starts killing even more people. But I swear, at some point you're like, how many people have I caused? Has this dumb lady caused to kill? I literally live next to her. It'd be like really easy to just, you know, flip some just like throw stab her in the fucking chest. Satoshi's got more balls than this, and this is a Yakuza leader, so like, you can be like, I was literally held against my will, I was forced to torture people, or at risk being tortured myself, I literally grew up in this family, you might be able to get away with that shit. Be like, I was literally a prisoner in my own house for my entire life, I fucking snapped and murdered. You might actually be able to admit to the police that and be like, yeah, I'm fucking done with this family, take me away from here, put me in witness protection, fuck it, I'm gone. I don't want to be in this shit. I don't know how lenient the police are, but you might even have a chance at a better fucking life because you're a minor here. You might actually have a better chance at a decent life if you wanted to get out of this life as a minor. Be like, I want to be fucking overseas. I don't want to be in this goddamn country. Like, fuck this whole place. I don't know. I don't know what the Japanese have for witness protection or for helping people get out of the Yakuza who are like born into the family. But if nothing else, killing her, you won't exactly get in trouble for killing her. Something even more horrifying followed this. It was the silence that awaited my next action. So, what should I do now? One of the subordinates pointed to the handle and told me to either squeeze it or hit it. He recommended the latter would be easier, to make it quick. Nobody said anything after that. There was nothing to hear but the sound of my sweat dripping onto the floor. The onlookers were staring at me silently, waiting for me to execute my punishment, both the hag and Mion. They were also anticipating it. I could refuse, but that meant I wouldn't be paying up. This punishment exists to offer payment in exchange for the safety of those who helped me, and if I refused, they would suffer. I started breathing heavily. I knew. If I did this, the others would go free. This was, if you thought about it, quite a good deal. If it weren't me, it wouldn't just be 3 fingernails. If it were Kasai, he'd have to sacrifice his little finger or something even worse. I knew that. It was my selfish desire to get away from that school. Why did Kasai have to suffer for that? I knew. Why did Yashiro have to suffer because he provided me with a job? I knew the hag and other relatives still hated the Hojos. So I didn't know what they'd do to Satoshi-kun if I didn't do this. On an amusing note, the scene where the aunt is like thinking that fucking everyone hates her, Everyone does hate her still. It's just bad for the community, so they've been ordered to not act against her. The aunt is not being paranoid, she actually knows the truth. Like, literally, the reason people weren't harassing her is because they were ordered not to by Oryu. But Oryu also made everyone hate her, and she didn't reshape things so that people wouldn't hate her, just stopped the harassment. Because Oryu's the shitty leader. Anyway. Would they bring Satoshi here and tell him to do the same? Would they tell him to remove his fingernails in exchange for forgiving me? He'd do it. He'd sacrifice himself with no hesitation to save others. My sweat dripped onto the table through my nose. I'd do it, yes. It was only 3 fingernails. It might hurt a lot, but I wouldn't die. The fingernails would grow back. It wouldn't even leave a huge scar. I shouldn't be afraid. The punishment was minimal because it was me. If I refused to do this, the others would be punished much more severely. I couldn't let it happen to Kasai, Uncle Yoshiro, or Satoshi. I was the only one who should be punished. I just needed to bear the pain. Ah! I wasn't just breathing heavily anymore. I was also moaning faintly, ready to scream at any moment. That's right, make it quick. This wasn't torture, so I didn't have to prolong the moment of pain. I should do it in one swift blow. That way my pain and fear would be minimized. I raised my right arm. Quickly. Quickly, the pain would be lessened if I did it in one stroke. It'd be much more painful if I messed up. The tension's fucking kill it. The tension's gonna fucking kill you more, I swear. It's gonna hurt like crazy. For a while. But the tension is awful. The tension's killing me and I'm not even here. I held my breath. It felt as if my body was frozen. I was choking. The chills crept up my spine. Don't be afraid, Shion. Fingernails are just a fraction of the whole body. Just 1 square centimeter. I could do this. I could bear it. Ah! I smacked my right hand onto the handle of the device. Ah! I sensed the noise through my body instead of through my ears. All this at the same time I felt a pain I'd never experienced before. And a moment later, the pain pulsated with my heartbeat. I clenched my teeth. I felt like my teeth were cracking. I tightly shut my eyes until my eyeballs got squeezed up. The pain wouldn't fade. Rather, it swelled with my blood pressure. I felt as though I was bloating like... Oh, hold on, let me skip that. Like a balloon. Timidly, I opened my eyes. I found that my little finger wasn't really drenched in blood. It was bleeding, but not much. Certainly not enough to explain how much it hurt. My fingernail was open, just like the hood of a car. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. It was overwhelming. It occurred to me I'd only done 1 of 3. Did I have to repeat this twice more? Did I have to remove the nails from my ring and middle fingers as well? Looked at the hag and Mion begging for mercy, but they just silently stared at me. As if the show had only just begun. I saw no hint of mercy in their eyes. They wouldn't be changing their minds. Since they said 3, it had to be 3. They wouldn't forgive me until I removed 2 more nails. Mion, look, isn't this enough? It really hurts, you know. You can see that in my eyes, don't you? It really hurts. Mion answered, still wearing a cold look. Shion, you can't keep going. She didn't mean that it was sufficient. What she meant was the others would have to take the remaining punishment if I didn't. I knew that. I really did. I'll do it. This is easy. Sadist. It doesn't scare me. It doesn't hurt. You're not doing a very good job coming up. Keep going. I quickly moved the metal beak and set it on my ring finger. And smacked it with no hesitation. Instead of making it quick, maybe I was just rushing out of fear. I'd messed up. The torture tool clipped just the tip of my fingernail. The pain, however, was equal. I couldn't believe I'd only chipped it. Did I have to do it again? Did I have to continue ripping the nail from my ring finger? That much pain again? Again? Shion. I don't want to do it. I couldn't bear it anymore. I started crying shamelessly. Can't take it anymore. It's too painful. Forgive me, please. I'm sorry. I apologize. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. They didn't seem to hear my voice. It felt as though there was an invisible barrier between us. They showed no mercy. They were just here to witness this ritual. So rather than sympathetic, they looked amazed by my screw-up. Mion walked up to me and whispered to my crying face, Shion, there's a bit more to go. Hang in there. Oh, no, I can't do this. It really hurts. It does. Oh, she's done 2 at least. I can respect... Mion shook her head and signaled the subordinates. They came from behind me. They covered my head with something like a knit cap. It was a blindfold. One of them pinned me in a Nelson hold, restricting my movement. No, stop! Stop, no! I couldn't overpower the guy behind me, and then I felt something strange on my left hand. The other guy was doing something with the torture tool. He put the beak between my ring finger and its fingernail. No, Mom, help me, Mom! Ah! My left hand was fixing the restraint, so I couldn't put up much protest anyway. But even that left hand was pressured down by his rough palms until it hurt, robbing it of the freedom to tremble. Note, I think her mom's terrible because she's not doing shit here too either. That's why I'm like, Shion's the most useful person, because she's actually trying to help people and saying, fuck the family. Her mom's useless. And actually, wait, is her mom the one that married into her or is it dad? It's her mom, right? I'm gonna call her mom actually a terrible person for bringing someone into the world. I'm actually gonna say, you know, it's like a funny argument to say like, it's like a funny moral question of whether or not it's reasonable to bring someone into the world because the world's filled with suffering and you're inflicting suffering on someone. But actually bringing someone into this family by giving birth to them, it seems like it would be a guarantee that they would suffer immensely if they were not Mion. Like if you had even if you had like a second kid instead of a twin, it feels morally wrong to actually bring someone into the life of a Yakuza knowing that they will more than likely be tortured at some point. Seems morally wrong. Not just to have like the usual suffering of life, but an extra dose of actual torture where you or one of your relatives is intentionally inflicting as much pain as possible on them. Seems like a questionable choice for a parent to make at any point. Alright, even that left hand was pressed down by his rough palms until it hurt, robbing me of even the freedom to tremble. They had no hesitation. It was made very clear to me how merciless people could be. Robbed of my vision, all I could do was clench my teeth against the pain assailing me. If there was anything I was thankful for, it was that he was well practiced and ripped off both my fingernails cleanly. Pain and screaming might induce narcotic chemicals in the brain. While screaming, I started losing consciousness. Anyway, so if there's any questions about whether if there's any question whatsoever about why Mion and Shion kind of don't like each other, I think this is a reasonable scene to remember. Oh, I woke up. My memories were missing. I couldn't remember how I got back to my room. I held my head with both hands. My left hand was bandaged. The fingers that had their nails removed were swollen like hot dogs. I'd paid with those 3 fingernails for what I did. The hag had said something after the punishment, but I didn't remember any of it. I was taken to a hospital in Okonomiya. The car shook on the way, adding extra pain on top of what I already felt. Somebody gave me some aspirin. They worked, just like they said on TV, but they didn't last more than 10 minutes. True, aspirin doesn't last long. I swallowed the pill without water. That's impressive, I can't fucking do that. While I was spacing out in the waiting lounge, Kasai showed up. He probably came to check if I was alright. I obviously wasn't. He must have understood that from my bandaged left arm dangling from my shoulder. But he looked fine. At least on the outside. I was relieved my sacrifice meant something. Kasai didn't say anything. I couldn't tell if he wanted to tell me something because he looked so emotionless. Kasai? Yes. He paused shortly before answering. I could tell he was upset. I didn't regret revealing my identity in order to protect Satoshi. But I hadn't wanted Kasai or Uncle Yoshiro to be hurt. I'd been contradicting myself. Do you know how Uncle Yoshiro's doing? No. I'm sure he's alright. He's strong. Even so, you should apologize to him. Okay. I wanted to ask him about Satoshi, too. I wondered if he was captured or harassed by the Sonozaki family because of me, but I was hesitant to ask Kasai. After all, I'd chosen Satoshi over them. Was Satoshi alright? I hoped he wouldn't get caught or incarcerated somewhere. I paid the hospital bill and Kasai gave me a ride home. I finally realized someone was knocking on my door. Shion-san, it's not healthy to sleep so much. It was Kasai. He put some side dishes on the table and we started nibbling at them. How do you feel? Pressed. Have you been resting? Have you been eating? I've been eating the stuff left in the fridge. Otherwise I'd been either sleeping or staring at the ceiling. It had been 3 days. I'd just been lying down since then. I woke up every now and then in my shallow sleep, but I didn't feel like getting up or thinking. I felt like I'd just been floating the whole time. My appetite was gone, but it came back with the smell of the food Kasai brought. I wasn't able to think of anything to talk to him about, so I just ate silently. I got a call from Mion-san yesterday. She's saying she called you a few times but never got through. The moment I heard Mion's name, I felt my wounds throb. But I didn't stop Kasai, who continued. As you paid up, the family decided to close the matter. You officially will withdraw from St. Lucia's and transfer to a school in Okonomiya. I'm finally acknowledging my right to make my own decisions, huh? Indeed. They said you could live as yourself now under a few conditions. Stay away from Hinamizawa. Don't pretend to be Mion. You won't show up in public spaces and so on. It means, in exchange for acknowledging me, they don't want me to hang around. That's correct. That's correct. Of course, it's only temporary until things cool down. There's no set duration, but I think you should stay inconspicuous at least until the end of the year. It'd be good enough just to live in Okonomiya quietly, the way it was before. Kasai put on a sad smile. I smiled back at him likewise. Before the conversation ended, I should ask him what I wanted to know. How's Satoshi doing? I wished Kasai would assure me of his safety right away. Drink. I think I need a drink. Of course, no one falls asleep. Definitely not my reminder to hydrate. But he didn't answer like that. Kasai, is he alright? Shion. Kasai put his chopsticks down. The family wants you to forget about him. What? Shion. I don't want to get in an argument with you, so I won't get into the details. I'm only relaying to you what the family wants. What are you talking about? What details, Kasai? Kasai pretended as though he didn't hear me and started eating again. I'd never seen him get so stubborn like this. The Sonozaki family had been using the Hojos as a scapegoat. They must have concluded a Sonozaki shouldn't be in love with a Hojo. I didn't like that. Satoko's a friend of Mion's at school. Would it be okay if Satoshi and I were the same gender? Anyway, if I did something conspicuous again, they might do something to him for real, just like they forced me to remove my own fingernails. The family wouldn't hesitate. They'd torture him if need be. Maybe if I really loved him, I'd stay away. Satoshi won't show up in Okonomiya unless he rejoins the Hinamizawa fighters. I'd have to pretend to be Mion if I wanted to go to Hinamizawa, but I didn't think she'd cooperate with me. Even if she did, it'd be some time down the road. Even if they told me not to see him, I already had no means of doing that again. Oh wait, Mion gave me his number a while ago. I could call him. Maybe ask to meet him secretly? But if I got caught again, they wouldn't cut me any slack. Should I risk it? The hell do I even want from him? Kasai, can I be alone for a moment? Kasai started putting away his food in a rush, assuming I wanted him to leave. Oh no, that's not what I meant. Take your time, finish your food. I just want to take a walk. Can't lock this place up if I don't step out with you. Kasai quickly put away his meal and followed me out. Just to be clear, I'm not going to see Satoshi, alright? I see. I turned around and started walking. My destination was rather pathetic. It was the toy store that sold the giant teddy bear. I couldn't deny I was somewhat expecting him to pass by there. I couldn't stop myself from looking at the faces of passerby who resembled him. I looked into the store's window. The teddy bear was gone. Congratulations, Satoshi. Looks like you bought it. His aunt had died. His wicked uncle was living with his mistress. Satoshi succeeded in fulfilling his duty as a big brother by buying his little sister that huge teddy bear. There is nobody left to hurt him. He was free from his tiresome efforts. Free from pain. Over time, he'd retrieve his smile and go back to being the Satoshi I love, but I couldn't be there with him. I heard a car honking. I didn't think it was honking at me at first, but it was so persistent I had to look up. The person was waving at me from their car was eerie. He was waving at me carefree, oblivious to my feelings. Sonozaki, long time no see. Oh, are you meeting up with Hojo? No, I'm not. I know he looked into that store's windows all the time, so I assumed you were expecting him here or something. No, I'm passing by. Looks like he was able to buy that teddy bear. Eerie seemed to know about the bear as well. He smiled upon seeing its empty display case. Yesterday was her birthday. He must have celebrated it with that teddy bear. He doesn't have to work so hard anymore, huh? Indeed. Did he turn in his resignation to the Hinamizawa fighters? Oh, does that even exist? I never received one. Did you, Sonozaki? No, I didn't. That means he still belongs to the team. I think he'll be back after things have settled down. But I know he'll be sad if he doesn't see you there. Yuri teased me. He's a grown-up after all. He must have been trying to sound optimistic because he knew I was feeling down. You can come back to the team anytime you want. It might as well be empty without you. I'm thinking of providing you with a maid costume once you come back. I burst into laughter. Yuri sure hadn't changed. Oh, I almost forgot. I can tell you my name now. Sorry, Coach, I was lying about my identity. I'm not Mion. I'm her twin sister, Shion. I've been pretending to be here for a few reasons. What? You're Mion's twin sister? He was totally taken aback. I burst into laughter again. Yeah, I'm Shion Sonozaki. I'm forced to live quietly because my grandmother hates me, though. I never realized. Mion had a twin sister? Same here. Suddenly a loud voice interrupted us. The voice sounded mean and greasy, unlike Yuri's. It was him. Uishi. Hello, Dr. Iri. Thank you for your cooperation last night. Oh, don't mention it. I wasn't of much help. They were just going through the motions. It was obvious they hated each other. Iri whispered to me. I'm leaving now. Do you want to get in my car? I can drive you home. Iri figured Uishi was after me, so he was giving me a chance to slip away. Looking at Uishi's face, it was clear his focus was on me and not Iri. He probably intended to interrogate me until my testimony broke. I was sure I could talk my way out of it, but it'd just be a waste of time. Alright, Coach. Let's get going. Oh, you two are going somewhere together? Yeah, we're on our way to get some stuff for the team. We have to drop by a few places. Will you excuse us? Iri bowed, and I followed suit. I had to admire how good he was at lying. He is a grown-up after all. Uishi seemed to know it was a lie, but he didn't have a warrant, so he couldn't stop us. I moved to get into his car. How are your wounds, Shion? I gasped when I heard that. My left hand was bandaged. It was unsightly, so I'd kept it in my pocket. There is no way Uishi could have been able to see it. They'll heal with no problem if they don't get infected. I tore my fingernails off a couple times myself when I was a kid. But look, they look beautiful now, don't they? Men's fingernails shouldn't look beautiful. It gives me the creeps. Uishi scratched his head and chuckled. He's supposed to be one of the best cops in the PD, and he knows all the underground activities in the region. He must have heard about my payment from somewhere. Still, that happened in the secret basement of the main house. I couldn't underestimate this guy's sources. Thank you for your kind words. We'll be going now. I like how she's not like, I want to work with the cops to fuck the family over. She's just like, oh, well, it happens. It's like, she's like, oh, well, it happens. Lost a few fingernails. Still like my family. I'm like, yeah, you are literally like living that battered wife syndrome. Living that, what's that other one? The one where you come to like your captors. I forget the name of that one. Damn. Whatever that one is. I wanted to say locked in, but that's not fucking it. That's the one where you can't fucking move, but you're still conscious. Shion Sonozaki, why don't we get coffee together sometime? What? What? Are you hitting on me? If you like. Sorry, time flies. I can't waste any of that precious time on things that don't interest me. You got me there. How about this then? You can leave any time if you get bored of talking to me. I won't stop you. How does that sound? I don't mind you talking, but I won't talk back. I did. You could call it a conversation. That's fine. You can just listen. I'll talk. You could just listen to an old man ramble while sipping on a cup of coffee. He was being strangely persistent. It didn't look like he was trying to poke a hole in my statement. What would he even talk about? I got curious, even though I was still skeptical. Coach, I think I'll go with the old man instead. Shion? I winked at him and told him not to worry. Iri didn't insist. He got in his car and drove off. Uishi backed his car up so I could get in. I hopped in the back seat since I didn't want to sit next to him. The back seat of a police car instead of beside him. Are we really going to a cafe? Well, if you direct me to one with no connection to your family, that'd be great. Why'd you just take me to the station then? Uishi carefully checked for oncoming traffic and started driving. Uishi took me to the police station, as I thought he might. If he took me to a nice cafe, he would have scored some points, but whatever. I thought it'd be more convenient if we came here. You can still go home if you get bored. Try your best not to bore me then. Do you want me to go into the station hand in hand with you? Ueshi chuckled and got out of the car. He escorted me inside the station. I thought he'd take me to an interrogation room, but instead he took me to an office of the investigative division. Officers in both suits and uniforms were working at their desks answering phones. I assume this is going to be a question about Satoshi. There was a desk with a plate that said section manager, and nearby there were couches and a table. Ueshi told me to sit on the couch and started making some instant coffee. I'd never been to this part of the station. I looked around in curiosity. I like how she's like, I've been to the station. She's been arrested a few times before, right? You think I'd take you into an interrogation room? Ueshi brought over a tray with coffee cups on it. Well, you're treating me better than I expected. I thought you'd whip me or something. My tastes don't run that way. So, I thought you wanted to talk. Alright, I'll cut to the chase. Are you in love with Satoshi Hojo-san? What? It's getting boring already. I'm going home. She's like, well, turn around and leave. Okay, please forget that. Ueshi must have known why I had to remove my fingernails. He wasn't trying to confirm that I liked Satoshi. What he was really saying was, he knew already. I've already talked to Detective Kumagai about Satoshi's alibi that day. Of course, I read Kumagai's report. I know you were with him. I'll just repeat the same statement no matter how many times you ask. Don't think you can poke holes in it. No, that's not what I want. You're a smart person. I know that wouldn't work for you. I wonder what you're after then. You're wasting your time if you want information on Satoshi. There's nothing more to talk about. This is boring me after all. I'm going home, since that was our agreement. Excuse me. I got up off the couch, and this is where he drops a bombshell. Ready? Ready? Did you see him yesterday? Shion-san, I did want to get Satoshi's alibi from you. I admit it. That's it then. That's boring. I'm going home. I turned around and started walking, and Ueshi didn't get anxious, but instead spoke a little louder. But Shion-san, what I want to ask you about is his alibi for yesterday. Not the day of the murder. His alibi for yesterday? Why? What does that have to do with his aunt's death? Because Satoshi's been missing since then. What? Didn't you know he went missing? I couldn't say anything, but my expression answered Ueshi's question anyway. What's going on? Missing? What? Why don't you take a seat? He means Satoshi's gone missing. What the hell? We only know one thing for sure. He withdrew all his savings at an ATM in Okinomiya post office before 3 p.m. yesterday. We don't know his whereabouts after that. I knew why he withdrew the money. He wanted to buy Satoko's birthday present. He definitely bought that teddy bear yesterday. Just my guess, but I think he skipped town with that money. You mean he used all the money to run away? That's stupid. He was saving to buy Satoko a birthday present. He bought a big, expensive teddy bear from that toy store. He never used that money to skip town. Yes, the most expensive teddy bear in that toy store was sold. But we can't confirm it was Satoshi who bought it. Why don't you ask the clerk? Satoshi and I reserved the teddy bear together. Oh. I had a bad feeling. The old man who was watching the store was sleeping when we were there. He looked very senile. Maybe he was also watching the store on that day and... Oh god. Even though Satoshi bought the teddy bear, he didn't remember. Ueshi put on a wry smile. It looked like he'd already tried to question the old man. Anyway, it's Satoshi who bought the teddy bear. He must have saved enough to buy it, so he shouldn't have been able to run away after all. That's nonsense. Alright. Let's say he really did buy the teddy bear. Why didn't he come home with it? At that point, I felt as though my heart had turned to ice. Satoshi had been working hard to buy that teddy bear, even though he was under extreme mental and physical stress. After all that, he finally managed to buy it. It's unthinkable someone else just showed up and bought the same bear. It was gone because Satoshi bought it, no one else. But if so, he should have given it to Satoko. But even though he bought a present for her, he didn't come home. Didn't come home? Well, it's impossible. He would have gone straight home with that teddy bear. He wouldn't think of running away after buying that bear. Even though Satoshi wanted to run away from the police, he'd never leave without giving her the present. It must have been Satoshi who bought the bear. I can say that 100% with 100% certainty. The question is, why didn't he bring it home? The teddy bear was huge. It wouldn't fit into the basket of a bicycle. He might have brought some straps to tie to his bike. He wouldn't have thought of running away with a wobbly bicycle like that. He had to go home after buying the bear from the store after withdrawing the money. Nothing could have happened when he was going between the ATM and the toy store. Impossible. It's impossible. Nobody else could have bought that bear. Never. The bear had been sitting in the showcase until that day. Everyone could see it when they passed by. Nobody wanted it. Impossible. It couldn't have been someone else. There should have been no question he went to the toy store after he withdrew the money. What about the route between the toy store and his home? There shouldn't be any question there either. He shouldn't have been able to do anything with that huge toy. He shouldn't have even thought of making a stop on that way. He must have headed home right after he got the bear, right? But nobody saw him after that? Well, it's simple then. He went missing on his way home from the toy store. Wait, missing? What did that mean? I was sure he killed his aunt. Not that shrewd. Maybe he couldn't bear the pressure from the police? Was he resigned to the idea the police were going to arrest him regardless of my help? Did he decide to run away? Did he think he should disappear until things cooled down rather than get arrested? It's impossible. It's impossible he came to that conclusion on his way home from the store. If he did, he would have waited until he gave her the present. He loves Satoko. He shouldn't have spoiled her, but he tried to be a good brother, right? He'd never disappear before going home. I felt as though the ice was cutting through my heart, expanding the frost. If Satoshi didn't disappear by his own will, the answer was simple. He disappeared by somebody else's will. What, Satoshi eliminated? That stupid old man. I thought I could shake off the frost in my heart if I laughed loudly enough. I feel so bad for her, but I knew this. You knew this was happening at the start of this series before you even met Satoshi, right? Like, the second you realize what time it is, you're like, okay, Satoshi disappears. Then you meet Satoshi and you know he's fucked, but I feel so bad for Shion. Damn, man. I kept laughing until it happened. I kept laughing and laughing. All the cops in the room stared at me. They thought I'd gone crazy. I didn't care what they thought, though. I kept laughing until it turned into a cough. Alright. I finished laughing and took a sip of the lukewarm coffee. I felt as though the frost in my heart had spread all throughout my guts. I was chilled to the bone, freezing. My fingernails shook as I held the coffee cup. Shion, listen to me without interrupting. What I'm about to tell you is only a hypothesis. It's all just a theory. You might start laughing in the middle because it might sound ridiculous, but I want you to hear me out. Can you do that? Whatever, just talk. I was feeling too cold. My teeth were chattering. I felt as though my brain had frozen as well. I lost my ability to think. I couldn't do anything by myself. I could only do as Ueshi told me. What he was going to tell me might be the worst possible theory, but I had to listen to it. Hello. Hello, my friend. I know Satoshi and Satoko's aunt were abusing them. Especially Satoko. In my opinion, it's normal Satoshi started thinking about murdering his aunt, because he was just a human being. I had to deny Satoshi murdered her. But what Satoshi was saying was true. I couldn't deny his hypothesis right away, so I kept silent. Ooh. Alright. That's alright. The biggest thing about making Herc good is if you don't have a good CE for him is his Bond CE, so just keep putting him in back line. Get him to Bond 10. You don't actually need to do anything other than wait for him to get there. But yeah, the statues would be nice. They'll come out. There'll be a couple events soon enough. It's only a hypothesis, alright? Please don't be upset. No interruptions. Agreed? Agreed? I know. Just go on. Satoshi Hojo planned the murder of his aunt and executed it. We have no proof, okay? It's all theoretical. Alright, I heard. Just keep talking. I'll switch the subject now. Shion, you were forbidden from having a relationship with Satoshi, weren't you? He told you to stay away from him, correct? I believe the reason is that... It's not that your family hated the Hojos, but they didn't like the fact you were involved with a murder suspect. That is actually possible. After all, when I was pretending to be Mion, I already had a connection with Satoshi. Before anyone knew it was Shion who was spending time with him. I could have been accused when I was helping out the Hinamizawa fighters if the relationship between the Hojos and Sonozakis was a problem. It wouldn't be difficult for the Sonozaki family to know that Satoshi murdered his aunt, even if it happened in Hinamizawa. Maybe one of them even saw the murder. The Sonozaki family didn't like that I was in love with a murderer and decided to step in. You're known not to give up easily, aren't you? Which means even if the family threatened you or ripped off your nails, you still wouldn't cut ties with Satoshi, would you? I couldn't deny that. I lost most of my means to access Hinamizawa, so my ties to Satoshi were essentially cut. But I still knew his phone number and expected him to rejoin the fighters eventually. I believe your family knew a few threats wouldn't be enough for you to break ties with Satoshi. They could threaten you all they like to no avail. Though their only option is to do something about the other person, wouldn't it? What do you mean do something? What would they do? What? If threatening me was useless, then they'd do something about Satoshi. What would they have done? If they pulled something, wouldn't that interrupt his path from the toy store to home? Toy store to home? Toy store to X to home? What's X? What's X? X marks where his path was interrupted. What interrupted it? Why couldn't Satoshi make it home for the toy store if something interrupted him? What's X? X! I ran out of air, became dizzy, and then collapsed. The floor felt cold, and I felt no pain. I'd fallen to the floor like a plastic doll. Uishi and some others rushed over to me and helped me out. Calm down, Shion. We're not certain Satoshi was killed yet. You're not certain he was killed? The fuck are you talking about? Don't you know about that torture room where they forced me to rip off my own fingernails? Oh, no. Don't you know they say there's prison cells and a well for disposing corpses in the back? If the Sonozaki family wants to eliminate someone, they'll just kill them in the torture room and dump them down there. You're not certain? Are you dumb? Is your brain made of tofu? No, she's thinking this. If I were in the hag's position, I'd kill him for sure. I wouldn't let him get away. If I would kill him, the hag would kill him. Shion, please calm down. This is unconfirmed, but I have information that somebody witnessed a young runaway male at Nagoya Station who took a train from there to Tokyo. The clothes didn't match, but it's possible he changed what he was wearing to hide from the police. It's still possible it was him. Is he alive? Is he? It's also a theory, but let me go on. Your twin sister, Mion, is the closest person to Oryu, correct? I'm assuming Mion stopped Oryu when she suggested murdering Satoshi furtively. Mion? That was possible. It's not. He's super dead. She could have tried to calm things down out of pity. The idiot was always so indecisive. Should have been clear if she wanted to save him or not. But she probably always seemed vague about it. She must have persuaded the hag to reduce the punishment to banishment instead of death, just to avoid feeling guilty. As if. I believe the Sonozaki family contacted Satoshi. Told him they couldn't cover the murder and told him to disappear somewhere far away. They told him to be more accurate. Or forced him to. Satoshi would have rejected that. He would never leave Satoko behind. I agree with you. Satoshi was working at the places Mion referred him to, wasn't he? So the family knew he had enough money for a getaway. But he'd never used it for anything other than buying that teddy bear. You're right. He must have gone straight to the store after he withdrew the money. But what if the bear was already sold when he got there? Ooh, that would have been a desolate situation. He'd been working hard while his aunt abused him. Had many jobs, but the money was worth all the pain. He went to the toy store with the money in order to buy his sister a present. That was the only purpose for that money. He must have looked for the bear as he'd always done, but it was gone. He wouldn't have gone into a panic right away because he was always so optimistic. He might have thought the store was wrapping the gift for him because he told them he'd pick it up that day. He might have gone into the store joyously. I couldn't guess what happened next. My heart would tear up if I tried to imagine it anyway. Why they didn't have it, even though he had it reserved? Did the old man understand the situation, or was he just zoning out? Maybe it would have been the same even if it wasn't the old man who was at the store that time. If a bunch of fierce-looking subordinates from the Sonozaki went in and showed them the money, nobody would have rejected it. Satoshi must have sunk into silence. No matter how hard he complained, the bear was gone. He probably never even considered his dream might be taken away. He must have been wobbling his way home in sorrow, leaning on the telephone poles every now and then. It was the day he wanted Satoko to be happy the most. He couldn't get the present she wanted the most. He probably didn't even think of getting another gift because it was unimaginable he couldn't get that teddy bear. He might have imagined how Satoko would react when she found out he had no present for her. He must have looked unbelievably sad and empty. The money he had been saving meant nothing anymore. Satoshi never cried, even at his toughest moments. Did he even know how to cry? It was always Satoko who was crying, so Satoshi never learned to cry and grew up that way. Did you know? People shed sadness from their hearts with tears. And Satoshi wasn't even allowed to do that. Even though his heart was filled with sorrow, he couldn't let it out. You insisted he wouldn't leave Satoko behind, didn't you? But think, what if the family told him they'd look after her after his disappearance? After Satoshi found out the teddy bear was gone, all he had left were some crumpled bills. The family told him it was a matter of time before the police got him. They told him to run away. They said they'd take care of Satoko. Satoshi didn't feel like seeing his sister. He wandered and found himself at the station. He must have been apologizing to Satoko so many times in his head. He swore to come back someday, and headed to Nagoya, then to Tokyo. But that meant he's alive. He's alive, and I should be able to see him again someday. He must be coming back, so I'll definitely see him again. I assume the family set up a place for him to stay. They didn't. Satoshi must have gone there. He's safe? He's coming back someday, right? Ueshi looked up at the ceiling and stretched. He didn't answer me. I can't. On June 24th, Satoshi Hojo went missing. There's a possibility he ran away, as he was the prime suspect of a murder that happened on the 20th of the same month. Allegedly, someone resembling him was seen at Nagoya Station embarking on a train headed to Tokyo, but the truth is unknown. No one saw him since. As a matter of fact, no one even knows if he's still alive. R.I.P. in peace, Satoshi Hojo, murdered by Mion and Oreo. Surely he's alive. You gotta be on a fuck ton of copium if you think that's true, especially after reading the second arc. You know he's 100% dead. The information that Satoshi might have headed to Tokyo hasn't been verified. It started as follows. A young man came to the lost and found window looking for his wallet. The station employee asked him to write down his name on the form, and the young man started writing Hojo as his name, but stopped in the middle, crumpled the form, and wrote a totally different name on a different form. Another station employee witnessed a similar-looking young man rushing into the train headed to Tokyo. The employee from Lost and Found and the employee on the platform talked about the suspicious young man in the locker room. That was all. The wallet of the man named Hojo was never reported as found to the Lost and Found office. At first, I thought Ueji's theory about the family banished him and looked after Satoko in return was bogus. But thinking about it now, it doesn't seem too far-fetched. After all, Satoko started living with Rika after Satoshi's disappearance. Rika isn't just a regular girl, she's the head of the Furude family, one of the three families. Head of the Kimiyoshi is Rika's guardian. The Sonozaki family probably couldn't step in due to having been officially opposed to the Hojos, but Satoko is in the custody of the three families now. Even though the Hojo family was ostracized during the dam conflict, Satoko is now under protection. It seemed as though only Satoko is exempted from blame. Why was she spared even though Satoshi wasn't? Oh, rest in peace, Satoshi. And surprisingly enough, there's actually another chapter to go. I feel like that was the end of the story, so I'm curious where the next couple chapters are going to take us if there's more. I mean, there is more. We didn't hit the end screen. But it feels like the arc is over. It's kind of weird, like... This might just be there might be a post scene, so I'm guessing the next chapter is going to be the last one. This will be another short arc. We went from having 3 12-chapter arcs that were also very long to having hour-ish long arcs. Hour-ish long chapters that were also only 8 chapters long. Oh, okay. Looks like the game's getting shorter and shorter as we go through the arcs. A bit unfortunate because I really like Mion and I've really liked her so far, but we'll have to continue our adventures in Hinamizawa another time.